Okay, so hopefully we're live. I wanted to stream something. I didn't. Usually, like I'm thinking about topics, and like if I don't write it down, I will just forget. Even today, I spent like 10 minutes just trying to remember what I was going to talk about. So, because everyone is doing it, I figured, well, maybe why not? So. Levelsio, he did the podcast with Lex Friedman. Everyone was freaking out. They were like, "Oh, finally he is showing our people or whatever." And there was like too much stuff happening on Twitter, so like I didn't have the energy to read all of it because, yeah, mm, it's hard to have nuanced takes on Twitter, right? So like everyone was trying to be very pro his opinion or like anti his opinion. If you say something along the lines, yeah, it depends, like it could work, right? It's like no one's going to retweet your thing, right? So um I think the way that I want to start it is with just like the that section. uh and it's actually funny that like that I took notes as like, oh yeah, that's like a funny thing that he said. I wonder if I could react to it when I was watching the interview, and then everyone started talking about that section. So yeah, everyone had opinions about it. And for those who don't have any context, um, I think that like this is the whole context, right? This part of the screen is that there is a guy who's kind of like a serial entrepreneur, I guess, right? He just like builds a bunch of different projects. A lot of them are like AI, right? So like out of this out of this list, like half of it is AI, and and like his tech stack is not very fancy. Let's call it this way, right? And they in the podcast they kind of like start to talk about tech stack, and I think I want to play kind of like through the whole section of that, and I want to start kind of like here, right, where he was showing his application, and Lex was like very impressed the about UI, right?
Hope not. This is the end of my career.
Or the beginning.
Right, and then like this is this is what happens, right? Like uh he's looking at like the window.alert uh kind of like message, right? And Lex is like, wow, this is such a cool interface. This is like this is how this section starts, right?
Depends. We can send you a push notification when your
Yeah,
photos are
this is
done. Yeah,
okay.
all right, cool.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh wow! So this whole interface you built.
Yeah.
This is real.
Right, so like he just saw window.alert and he's like, wow, this is such a cool interface, did you build it all yourself, right? And it's like, if you're anywhere near professional, right, you're like, what do you mean good interface? Like, why is this text not centered? Like this take photo is like too low, and the space that you have on the text here and the space that you have on the arrow here, it's the same, but design wise you should probably kind of like move it around so like it has a bit less space on like where you have the arrow, right? So like you as a as someone who works with design, you're like, no, like there are like hundreds of things that you can do better, right? You probably don't want to have like this cutout like UI or whatever. You want to maybe like do the like fancier scroll bars or whatever. Like so like if you want to make it look like you're a professional designer, you would spend a ton of time on all of this, right? You wouldn't you wouldn't just leave it in this state, but like it was impressive enough kind of like for Lex.
Really well
It's all
done.
jQuery. So I still use jQuery, the
Yes,
only one
still
after
to
10
this
years.
day, you're not the only one. The entire of the web
Yeah.
is PHP. The
It's
stack
PHP and jQuery. Yeah. And SQLite.
you're just like one of the top performers from a programming perspective that are still like openly talking about it. But everyone's using PHP. Like if you
Yeah, so I think I wonder if I like even kind of like want to write it down. I don't have I don't have a thing where I usually write everything down, so I don't know where to start. Maybe HackMD or something. But like um, the the kind of like the nuance that you would usually lose on Twitter, right? Is they just mentioned like three things, right? And everyone will read stuff differently, right? So he said, I'm using PHP, jQuery, and SQLite, right? So all the PHP fans are like, yes, he is a hero. We're like, he's ours, right? All the jQuery holdouts, they're like, oh, this is great. Like finally, someone represents jQuery, right? And like, and SQLite, I heard a lot of people, even like I was watching this video from a guy I follow on Twitter, and he said something along the lines like, "I would never use SQLite in production. It's like single threaded." And I was like, "Yeah, but why not?" Right? There are like a bunch of use cases where you can use SQLite in production pretty good, and it's like, who cares if it's single threaded, right? Like Node is also single threaded, and it's like it didn't stop anyone. So yeah, so just to kind of like say it out loud, right? PHP, well, it depends, right? So like when he says PHP, he means like index.php and just like no framework, just like cobble everything together as if it is. It's funny that he says like 10 years later I'm still using it. Like he's using it as it was like 15 years ago or like 20 years ago, right? Like not as 10 years ago. Even 10 years ago, we already had a bunch of like frameworks or like Drupal, WordPress, and Symfony and all that stuff, right? Like he's just like, no, I'm just like using PHP. Like I don't care about any of the frameworks. So all the people who are like with fists in with the air, sort of like, yes, he's like our PHP guy. You're probably using like Laravel, right? and he's using like raw PHP. So like you are actually probably like agreeing, like disagreeing with him more than you're agreeing with him. You just like don't want to hear it or whatever, right? And the same thing about like kind of like jQuery, right, or like vanilla JavaScript. There is kind of like a way of kind of like using it right. And I guess it would be fun to kind of like the JavaScript code is like visible, right? Like you don't have to go. Uh, it's not like backend code. We can actually probably look at his front end code and see kind of like how closely to the real world it is. But yeah, so I just want to say that like when you say PHP, jQuery, or like especially a lot of time he was saying like, oh, I'm just like using vanilla JavaScript, right? So like you can use vanilla PHP, vanilla JavaScript, and SQLite pretty like successfully, but you also you also probably are using it differently than he does, if that makes sense. So it's like I don't think the pool of his supporters is as big as like people trying to make it look. Like people who are actually doing what he's doing, they did this like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, like kind of like I did, right? Like, but we are not doing this anymore. So like we understand what he's saying, just like we're not doing that anymore. Okay, let's go let's go further.
if you look, most of the web is still probably
I
PHP and
think
jQuery.
70%. It's because of WordPress, right? Because the blogs are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm seeing a revival now. People are getting sick of frameworks. Like all the JavaScript frameworks are so like what do you call it, like wieldy. Like they're so it takes so much work to just maintain this code, and then it updates to a new version. You need to change everything. PHP.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of people criticizing him for this part, and like the criticism is basically like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and part of it is yes, of course he doesn't, right? Right? Like that's the whole point is that like he looks from it from the outside, and it seems complicated to him, and he sees like people complaining on Twitter that's like all complicated, right? He's like, well, it must be complicated, right? But there's some truth to that, right? So like um, if you build everything kind of like without any dependencies, right? Or if your dependency is like jQuery 1.3, you don't have to update, right? Like you can just like leave it as is, kind of like indefinitely, which is finally that like that's the reason why I stopped using PHP, for example, right? I used to have like some websites running on PHP, and it was like the one that I have in mind. It was like um, I forgot how it was called, like DokuWiki or something like that. Yeah, it was some sort of like a wiki software. It wasn't like the real one that like Wikipedia is using, but like kind of like on a smaller scale. And like, why did I kill it? Because I was too tired updating all the versions, because like each version will have some sort of like a security issue, like viruses will kill my VPS, like my hosting provider will call me and like say, hey, we deleted everything because you had too many viruses, and I need to, like get everything from backup, update everything, ask my VPS to restore me the node again, right? So like the support and like keeping up with the versions of a framework, PHP in this case, right? That's what kind of like killed the project for me. And that's going to be true about like any language, right? It will be true. It will be just like more true the bigger scale you have, right? So like if you if the only dependency that you have is like PHP and SQLite, right? As long as you're just like updating your LAMP server, like that's all that you need to do. But like the more dependencies you use, the harder it's going to get, right? Um and I had, like bad and good experiences with JavaScript and like with all the other languages. I even had like this problem with Go, where uh my uh the framework that I'm writing, Strike, I was hosting it on Fly, and I just at some point it just like stopped deploying because like the version that I had and the version that Fly had, like got out of sync, and I can install the right version locally, but like I can't install the right version on the Fly anymore, right? It just didn't work, so like I couldn't push any updates, and it's like, yeah, and it's like Go is like one of the best languages, right? That has the kind of like the version 1.0 was like out for like 8 years or whatever, right? And it's like everything is kind of like backwards compatible and all that stuff. But the more dependencies you have, in this case, like fly.io, right? That like the higher the chance that it's going to break, right? And I think I have like maybe like a couple of dependencies in that Go project, right? Like so that it wasn't Go, it wasn't like the complexity of Go project. It was just like deployment, kind of like infrastructure that killed it. So uh, again, it's hard to say what I just said in like 15 minutes, right? It's hard to say that in a tweet and get a bunch of likes. You kind of like have to take like a more contrarian takes, um, in order to yeah to get out with your opinion.
He just stays the same and works.
Yeah.
And
Can you actually
Yeah, so like again, like it stays the same as works, yes, until you have like a security vulnerability in PHP that you have to patch, and then you have to update like this thing and that thing, right? So like it's going to be kind of like true and not true about like any language, depending on like what what you're trying to do.
just speak to that stack? You build all your websites, apps, startups, projects, all of that with mostly vanilla HTML,
yeah,
uh, JavaScript
CSS.
with jQuery, PHP, and SQLite. And so that's a really simple stack, and you
Yeah,
get stuff done really fast with that. Can you just speak to the philosophy behind that?
I
Yeah, I think the other thing that like a lot of people are discussing, and I think the what the doodle said this also. He's like, well, you're going to be the fastest in the framework that you're most familiar with, right? So like, it doesn't matter like the language, the framework, the library. Like, it's not going to matter as much as your familiarity. So if you're doing everything in one language, that's going to be kind of like infinitely infinitely faster and infinitely like better for you to use if you want to finish some project than like trying to learn a new language, right? So that's hard to um, it's hard to measure, right? So like uh, so we're looking at this guy who like likes PHP, right? But if you look at the how is it, like Joe Blow, Jonathan Blow, who's writing his own language, right? He's going to be the fastest in his own language, right? And like the guy who Carmack, right, who wrote Doom, he's going to be the fastest in like in C and C++, right? Like he doesn't, he's not going to be fast in PHP, right? So it's a, like an argument that is hard to measure. It's funny that like Lex later kind of like goes into that. He's like, well, how do you know that, right? How do you measure that this is actually true? That like PHP is actually like faster, all that stuff. And unfortunately, it comes down to like experience. You're just like, well, in my experience, this is like the fastest way, right? And like everyone's experience is going to be different, so everyone's going to take their own kind of like their own ideas out of like what was fastest.
I think it's accidental because that's the thing I knew. Like I knew PHP, I knew HTML, CSS, because you make websites. And when my startup started taking off, I didn't have time to. I remember putting on my to-do list like learn Node.js because it's
This is I like this part the most is I had my list and I had like learn this, learn that, and I think this is like on a bigger scale. This is true for kind of like everyone, right? Like the thing that comes to my mind is all the people who got lost to the management positions, right? Who are like, oh, I learned, I don't know, like Angular, and I was about to learn React, but I got promoted and now I'm managing a team and everyone in the team knows React, and like I wish I knew React, but I only know Angular. So like it's like, oh, I feel kind of like disconnect and all that stuff. So this is definitely kind of like a part that everyone can relate. You never have time to learn everything. You never have time to learn like every language or write every project that you want to do, right? And it's like, well, for in his case, right, he wanted to learn Node, which is I have like a uh, I would say it feels like Node is like the wrong thing to learn, right? The argument right now is that you learn Node because you want to run those like isomorphic apps that run JavaScript on the client and on the server, right? And I don't think you like have to do that, right? And so that's I think the like the sad part, right? Is that even in his attempts to be a better engineer, he's getting his advice from Twitter, right? From people with anime avatars. And maybe they like know what they're talking about, like the people with anime avatars, but like through the Twitter kind of like filter, he's like not getting it, right? Like he's getting very kind of like surface level, very yeah, very like Twitter sized advice. And yeah, from that Twitter sized advice, you would assume that you need to know Node to be like an engineer right now, but it's like why? Like why do you think that?
important to switch, because
Yeah.
this obviously is a much better language than PHP. And I never learned it. I never did it because I didn't have time. These things were growing like this, and I was launching more projects, and I never had time. It's like one day, I'll start coding properly, and I never got to it.
I sometimes wonder if I need to learn that stuff. It's still too do item for me to really learn Node.js or Flask or these kind of
React,
yeah,
Vue,
React.
Yeah, and like he mentions Flask, right? Which is like a framework um, for Python, which I would, if I was to say something to Peter, right? I would say learn Laravel, right? It's like don't learn Node. It's just like do kind of like a do instead of being like instead of trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do right now in Node, right? Go higher level in PHP instead, because that's what will bring you the most kind of like bang for the buck that you can like need, right? Instead of learning kind of like Next.js or Flask, learn Laravel. Like you already kind of like half there, right? And like once you understand the framework, that's going to be like faster for you to learn, then you will understand kind of like what's going on. so, so yeah, that's definitely like a like I wish he had a better advice.
And it's there's it feels like a responsible software engineer should know how to use these. But you
Yeah,
can get stuff done so fast
I think it's
with
different,
vanilla
right?
versions of stuff.
Yeah, it's like software developers. If you want to get a job, and there's like people making stuff like startups, and if you want to be entrepreneur, probably maybe you shouldn't,
I
right?
wonder if there's like
Yeah, so this is probably like this was in another section of the video. He was saying about like one of the startups that he started, and he like directly referenced Peter Thiel, right? He's like, do the things that don't scale. So he was sending AI generated like photos of people like through the email as they were like requesting them like manually, right? And it's like that's like a perfectly valid kind of like thing, right? And doing the doing the things that like don't scale in his case, right? So like it's doing it like in plain PHP, and well, there's like a bigger thing that I wanted to bring up, but I think it's also like in a different section, so I will kind of like do it later. His project must be unmaintainable. Well, that's kind of like the point, right? It's like um, I guess I will go there. One of the things that he mentions later on in the interview is that he never worked on a team, right? So he said that uh, the only people that he kind of like worked with were, I think like one person did like a mobile app for him, right? So like you can just like say, hey, send me this API and that API, and kind of like don't kind of like talk to each other at all, right? So, and the other was a person who said like, hey, this is a mess, let's rewrite everything, but like he's not going to be as fast as this guy, right? Because like this guy doesn't like sleep and all that stuff. So like compared to this guy, anyone who's kind of like trying to rewrite his code is going to be like going way slower, right? But he's probably kind of like just didn't have like a very talented guy as well, right? So he was like complaining about like, well, it's hard to kind of like to hire someone and all that stuff, which is true, right? There are a lot of people uh, who will tell you that they are very great and like they can't actually deliver, right? So like his experience is like one person he didn't kind of like touch any code with, right? And another person who wasn't really good, so like they tried for a bit and stopped, right? So he never worked on a team. So all the things that we kind of like would justify this, right? So like the tweet that I did was okay. Uh, you're trying to defend like React or whatever, right? Like sell him on GraphQL, right? And this is kind of like intentionally the idea is that like between kind of like GraphQL and him, there's like such a big difference, right? And his approach makes sense for what he's doing, and GraphQL actually like it makes sense for some kind of like problems, right? For some amount, like some size of the team, some amount of teams that need to talk to each other and all that stuff. But it's so much further away than like let's say lateral, right? Okay, I'm not like fitting in the screen. So he's here, like GraphQL is here, and I'm saying learn lateral, like make it like a small step that will actually like improve your life. You will actually get mostly the benefits and like slight amount of negative, right? But it's like easy to understand what that he's here and like GraphQL is not going to help him, right? Like he never worked in a team. He just someone replied to my tweet of like how would he do that without like federated schemas or whatever, right? It's like there is a company, there is like a scale at which you can't actually build anything without like federated schemas or whatever, right? And it's like for them, GraphQL is a thing that like makes everything simpler and like makes it actually work. For him, for Peter, right? Like going to GraphQL is all the negatives and none of the benefits, right? It's like he's writing in PHP and jQuery. Like having typed responses is not going to improve like his life like one bit, right? Like he just like he's missing so many steps before kind of like GraphQL starts makes sense to him, right? So yeah, I think like the uh I think it's funny to realize like how like unique his position is, right? And I actually think it makes sense for him to like to do what he's doing, right? Like I was doing this thing when I was I don't know 20 or there, right? So like that made sense for me back in the day. So but I didn't start like $1 million startups that like made me stop like learning about the code, right? So that's why he's like in his position out of my mind. Okay, I don't know how much of this is left. Uh,
I really want to measure performance and speed. I think there's a deep wisdom in that.
Yeah.
I do think that frameworks and just constantly wanting to learn the new thing, this complicated way of software engineering gets in the way. I'm not sure what to say about that because definitely, like, you shouldn't build everything from just vanilla JavaScript or vanilla C, for example.
Yeah.
C++, when you're building systems engineering, is like, there's a lot of benefits for pointer safety and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's funny that like he uses C++ as an example of pointer safety, which is like yeah, like in 2024 that sounds just like completely crazy out of the left field. It's like yeah, I wish I would learn C++ because that's the safe one, and it's like oh no. Oh no.
So I don't know, but it just feels like you can get so much more stuff done if you don't care about how you do it.
Man, this is my most controversial take, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah, so I think that's where the clip on the Twitter started about like the his like his rant against Next.js and Vercel without naming them, so everyone had like their own ideas.
I feel like there's frameworks now that raise money. They raise a lot of money, like they raise 50 million, 100 million, $300 million. And the idea is that you need to make the developers, the new developers, like when you're 18 or 20 years old, right? Um, get them to use this framework and add a platform to it, like where the framework can, it's open source, but you probably should use the platform, which is paid, to use it. And
Yeah, the funny part that's like it's true for kind of like any of them on like at the bigger scale, right? So like if you're using Next, you should be using Vercel, right? Like if you're using um I don't know, like Fresh, you should be using Dino Deploy. If you're using Laravel, you should be using I forgot how it's called. Yeah, they have like too many names, and like I never use any of that stuff. But like even for Elixir, you have like some like hosting providers and all that stuff, right? So like it's uh, of course like the incentives and whatnot they're like differently they have like different level of like bad influence or whatever, right? But this this is true kind of like for anything, right? And you could say like, oh, it's like big C, it doesn't allow me to write assembly, right? And it's like, well, no, that's like a bit silly. And yeah, I remember when people were freaking out that Zend bought PHP, and Zend was like a hosting company, and they had like a paid products, right? So like he just like doesn't remember that part. Like he says things as if PHP is like this free and completely like unmotivated by profit organization, right? And well, he's young. He's like he doesn't remember that part, but that's still yeah, it's still kind of like true about anything, right? And like even with Redis or whatever, right? Or like even Node.js, like they did like Node.js documentary about like how because of the whole like forking and all that stuff happened, right? And like it was all about money. It's just that's how it goes.
The cost of the platforms to host it
Mhm.
are 1,000 times higher than just hosting it on a simple AWS server or
Right. So that's an interesting argument, right? And that's where the like DHH started to show up with his his opinion on like hosting providers and all that stuff. I think it's like it's true and false at the same time on like on a different scale. So the argument that I think that's the tweet that I pulled up, right? Is like, hey, I'm using Vercel for like for free or for like some like reasonable amount, and I don't have to pay like $5 for DigitalOcean, and like I don't have to learn Linux, I don't have to like learn other stuff, right? So like you choose your own. Uh, I forgot. It's like a Primogen quote, right? Like he says, you should choose your own hard or like you choose your own easy, right? So like people just like choosing different things to learn, and if you're comparing like $20 per month for Vercel or $5 per month for like DigitalOcean, right? It's like, oh well, $20 is like way more expensive. But if you're comparing like $0 for GitHub Pages or something, right? Well, like the $0 seems like way more way more cheaper. So I think it's like it's funny that um, this is like my overall like theory of like everything. I think that like the hosting availability is the thing that shapes kind of like the framework kind of like market is if uh if when I was young the easy way of getting stuff out was finding like a free shared hosting that will like cut you on everything. You will have like 5 megabytes of space and all that stuff, but like it was free, right? So like if you wanted to start something, it was impossible kind of like to find like Python hosting. It was impossible to find like even like Perl hosting, right? But it was really easy to find PHP hosting. What happened? Everyone was writing PHP, right? And the same thing is happening with JavaScript right now. I think that because it's basically free to do like static websites, right? Kind of like HTML is the free language, right? But with SPAs, you can also add a bunch of like functionality that like makes your HTML kind of like a spa, right? And like and it's still static, it's still free. So that's kind of like what was like pushing the SPA thing, right? And now with kind of like Vercel and Netlify and I don't know, Dino Deploy. Deploying a JavaScript application, even like a SSR application, is still really cheap. It's like for smaller projects, it's basically zero, right? That's what's kind of like driving the like this whole revolution. It's not just like someone at some point decided like PHP is bad, JavaScript is good, right? It's like I think it's shaped by the like available stuff, and it's like if you go to me and it's like, hey, I want to learn web development, I want to build this project. I'm like, what's your budget? You're like zero. Well, now I'm not going to recommend you to like to learn, I don't know, like Erlang or Python, right? Because I don't know where you can host them for zero. Uh, so you have to pay $5 a month for a thing, right? Uh, so while it's technically true that at some scale your like serverless solution is going to be kind of like more expensive than your uh rare pro social stream. Yeah, well, trying. um so while it's technically true that like uh there is like there's like a point in the graph where your Next.js app is probably going to be like way more expensive than your PHP app. For most of people who are starting, they are seeing the opposite, right? Like for the graph that goes from kind of like from $0 to $5, that's where JavaScript is like the more popular, right? Because that's where it's cheap. Yeah, and he was like saying about like his VPS. It's like, hey, I have like so much traffic now that like after the podcast, right? And I think my $350 a month like VPS is still holding, and it's like, wow, 350, like that's a bit more than $5 a month, right? And like no one wants to pay $350 for a product that doesn't bring any money. Right, so like the scaling thing is a bit tricky. Okay, how much more do we have left?
VPS on DigitalOcean, right? So there's obviously like a monetary incentive here. Like we want to get a lot of developers to use this technology, and then we need to charge them money because they're going to use it in startups, and then the startups can pay for the bills. Um, but what that it kind of
Yeah, and it's again like everyone was making jokes about like all the other providers doing this, right? And it's like that's true for Laravel as well, right? So like, well, you have this Laracast that like educates everyone to use Laravel. And once you're doing a company, and once you need to send like a real emails, and once you need to do like some like something real, like save real users and all that stuff, well, that's when you start using like all the Laravel products, right? So it's not like it's hidden, right? So like if I go to Laravel, like the first things like, yes, the Laracast is the place where they're re-educating you until you start liking the stuff, right? But then it's but then it starts with all of the services, right? Like Forge, Vapor, Breeze, Cashier, right? So like all the stuff that you need to make it like production ready, right? They're selling it right away, right? Like the irony is that he he's not even like using the modern PHP, so like he doesn't know that, right? He hasn't seen Laravel, he hasn't seen like all the services and all the education of new developers that they're doing, right? So like he's just repeating what he heard from anime profile pictures, people on Twitter, and they are saying this about Vercel and JavaScript, right?
destroys the information out there about learning to code because they pay YouTubers, they pay influencers, developer influencers. It's a big thing to like, and same thing what happens with like nutrition and fitness or something. Same thing happens in developing. They pay these influencers to promote the stuff, use it, make stuff with it, make demo products.
Yeah, it's funny that like later on in the video he tells about like how he how much he enjoyed paying like some like uh TikTok influencers to push his stuff, right? And it's like everyone does this. You do this.
With it. And then a lot of people were like, wow, use this. And I started noticing this because when I would ship my stuff, people would ask me, what are you using? I would say, oh, just PHP, jQuery, why does it matter? And people would start kind of attacking me, like, why are you not using this new technology, this new framework, this new thing? And I say, I don't know, because this PHP thing works and I don't really, I'm optimizing for anything, just doing it just works. And I never understood like why, like I understand there's new technologies that are better and there should be improvement, but I'm very suspicious of money, just like lobbying. There's money in this developer framework scene. There's hundreds of millions.
Yeah, and I think I kind of like said it right, but like there is money everywhere. There's money in the Zen technology that like that pushes PHP, right? So like there is money everywhere. He just like he kind of like chooses not to see that on their side and like chooses to see it on the JavaScript side, right? There are a bunch of like free on open source, and I think that's where the what the doodle was like bringing up, like Vue, for example, right? There is no kind of like corporate sponsor for Vue. That is like if your argument is like, hey, I don't want to pay for something, I just want to use it. It's like, yeah, just use like an open source project that like that you think is like better, right? Like it doesn't depend on the language. It's just the thing that you see on Twitter the most is Vercel and Next.js, right? That's that, and you're like extrapolating it to kind of like to everything.
That goes to ads or influencers or whatever. It can't all go to developers. You don't need so many developers for a framework, and it's open source to make a lot of more money.
I heard this like so many times that I can't I can't let it go. You don't need so many developers. It's open source, right? So it's like, why then? Why then they hire the people, right? Like, why is Remix has like almost like 5 people? Why is like Marco like at least like 3 people? Why is Quick? I forgot 3 or 5 people, right? So uh, like why do all the frameworks need people? Right? Even the like smallest frameworks, even like Solid or Svelte, they do have people. They do spend money. So it's like it's not that easy, right? And it's kind of like again like falling on deaf ears. Like he doesn't know any of this stuff. Like he doesn't kind of like understand the problems of the scale on which like all of those solutions are working, right? But it's not that easy. It's like you as one person can do kind of like as much, right? And that's why you as one person, like when you're showing your website, all right, there is like an alert window dot alert showing up, right? Because uh, that's the joke that like I made here, right? Is like you're saying, oh, like frameworks are so complicated, like I don't need this, right? And it's like, yeah, we can tell. It's like it's not like it's not like it doesn't have any consequences, right? We can tell that you're not using like maybe like a fancy UI library, right? We can tell that you're not using like this or that, right? Like that's not like a secret. Um, it's not like when you're using jQuery, there are no consequences, even though it's simpler, right? Like you're paying in something to get the simplicity, right? So, and if we are talking about like his website, like the thing that he's paying, I don't know how like easy that's going to be to show that on the like the stream, but well, I think I see it, right? Like when I refresh this page, there is like a whole bunch of like UI moving around, right? So like if I disable JavaScript, you can see it, right? So like that's the state that he's loading stuff in. Um, and then like client side, he checks this like, oh, actually this user is not signed in yet, so like let's hide all of this menus, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, we can tell that you're doing that. It's not like a huge secret that you're doing PHP and jQuery without any framework. We can see that. It's like all of the things that would have been easy for you to do in the framework that are kind of like more of like a polishing step, right? Like we can see that you skipped them. It's like it's not a huge thing, right? It's like, and we can see that you're the only person on the team, right? Like when I do the like the keyboard navigation, right? Like what's going on here? It's like, well, there's probably like a space that's was left here, and it's like, well, I can tell that you don't have like a QA team, right? Yeah, the keyboard navigation is funky. Like I don't know. Like I'm pressing tab, but like I don't know what's going on, right? So like I think it selected this one and then it jumped to this one, but like where exactly does it jump? Like what does it mean? Right? And yeah, it's not a secret. It's like I don't know. Like the thing is that we can tell that like all of this is jQuery, right? It's like, and for example, if I again like if I disable JavaScript again, right? Like this doesn't work anymore, right? And it's like, yeah, because that's jQuery. That's like that's how you would do this in jQuery, right? There are better ways. There are better HTML CSS ways, right? So like if I go to prompts with friends and if I disable JavaScript, right, I can click those around, right? Because I didn't stop this thing with the knowledge of the web that I knew 15 years ago and said that it's fine. Right? I I I did learn stuff and it's like, yes, this is not like to make this thing work, you don't need a framework, you don't need to pay Vercel, even though this is hosted by in Vercel, by the way. You don't need to pay Vercel to do this, but you need to care about this, right? You need to test this, you need to check that like how it works and all that stuff. um yeah. i don't I don't know how else I don't know how else to see it, but like I probably didn't test everything, right? So like uh right, so like if I'm linking to this like fifth section, I should probably open this up, right? And it's like, well, that's I don't know how to do that in plain CSS. Right? But once this happens, once I learn it, I would go and back and like and fix it. But he doesn't need to. He has people paying him whatever the amount of money that he thinks that all of this should be worth, right? Uh, he, did he had a tester to test that like his new model, like the text is like doesn't look bad? No, he didn't. Can we tell that? Yes, we can.
On these startups.
So that's a really good perspective. But in addition to that, is like when you say better, it's like, can we get some data on the better? Because like I want to know from the individual developer perspective, and then from a team of 5, team of 10, team of 20 developers.
Yeah.
Measure how productive they are in shipping features, how many bugs they create, how many security holes. Result
PHP was not good with security for a while, but now it's good.
in
Jeff.
theory, in
Yeah.
theory, is it though?
Now
Yeah, I like that Lex is pushing him back. I'm like, yeah, you heard that on Twitter that like it's not bad anymore. Like, do you know that? Like, how would you measure that? And yeah, that's so I like this part.
it's good.
now, and no. Now, as you're saying it, I want to know if that's true because PHP was just the majority of websites
Yeah.
on the internet.
Could be true.
Is it just overrepresented? Same with WordPress.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a reputation that WordPress has a gigantic number of security holes. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I know it gets attacked a lot because it's so popular. It definitely
Yeah.
does have security holes, but maybe a lot of other systems have security holes as well. Anyway,
Yeah, this is just a on the PHP security. I have like a whole video on PHP security where I can like go a bit deeper into that. So it had like a funny meme thing, right? So like this one. Uh, um, yeah, PHP is hopelessly insecure. That's like completely not baiting like a perfectly balanced title. So uh, PHP security goes into kind of like two camps. So one camp is kind of like community. That's the one that I hate the most. PHP community is full of people who don't care about security, and they're just doing stuff, uh, and they're just hoping that the kind of like the language have fixed it, right? And which is like in the most uh, in the most cases that's like attributed to Laravel, right? So like Laravel was like, hey, all the PHP developers who are left, who are professionals, let's kind of like carve out the niche for us. So like we will probably have to make PHP thing work for like 10 more years. Let's kind of like let's band together and let's do something, right? Which kind of like helped, right? So like it was like a bit of kind of like reset, right? So like there was like a bigger PHP community and kind of like a Laravel community, so that was a bit more kind of like closed off and a bit more uh how do I say it? I don't know. Adults. That's the only word that comes to mind. Which yeah, I still think that PHP community is kind of like bad, and they don't care. There are like some exceptions, and they mostly kind of like are in and around the Laravel community, but I don't think it's enough. I think that like the cavalier, like, well, it works, like I'm making money, I just closed this project and like I'm going to switch to the next one, so I don't care what they're going to do, how they're going to deal with all of my problems, right? So that just, I don't know. Just like yeah, the community is kind of like, I think, like the big problem. And the other big problem is just like the surface for the security issues in PHP is way bigger than everyone else, right? So, and again, I'm talking about like the kind of like the PHP as like Peter would use, right? Not like Laravel, but like the older kind of like PHP, right? Like everything is just string concatenated, uh, just like push directly to database, all that stuff, right? So like it's just like the bit of success, right, and the bit of kind of like the failure is like everything in PHP is like in vanilla PHP is set out so that you will make a failure, you will like do things that are wrong and all that stuff, which is which is unfortunate, but like I think to say that like, hey, PHP fixed everything is very unfair, because like they didn't. Like they de facto didn't, but also if you make a website that is like static HTML page using I don't know, like Gatsby, right? It is going to be like infinitely more secure than a thing that you cobbled together in PHP without any concern for the security, right? And like, why do I know that there wasn't any concern? Because PHP community as a community, like they don't have concerns. They don't have concerns about like their website looking good, right? Like they don't have concerns about security. They don't have concerns about all that stuff. Of course, there are exceptions, but like the general field is is too scary. It's like if you show me like one PHP file and say like, hey, make sure that it's secure, and it's like, well, what's the point? Like the rest that's going to be around this file is hopelessly insecure. Why am I even trying to spend my time fixing this thing, which leads to the thing where no one cares about it and no one fixes it, right?
I just sort of questioning the conventional wisdom that keeps wanting to push software engineers towards frameworks, towards
They're complicated.
complex,
Yeah.
like super complicated sort of software engineering approaches that stretch out the time it takes to actually build a
Man,
thing.
100%. And it's the same thing with big corporations. Like 80% of the people don't do anything. It's like
Right.
it's not efficient. And if you're
Yeah, and efficiency thing is like uh I in my career I kind of like I'm starting a lot of projects and it's like the the amount of time that you spend to start a project is going to be very different, like depending on like what where are you starting this project in, right? So like um if you're doing a thing that you just need to like to deploy, um you have like an hour, right? And you need to push pixels on the screen. if you just go and open up like a free account on like Netlify or Cell, right? Or Dino Deploy or Fly, I guess, right? Like the amount of time that you spend there is like way different than the amount of time that you spend in like a have you wrote like a security review for all the dependencies that you're using, and it's like make sure to create like a coverage report for your tests and all that stuff, right? Like there are different there are just different setups in which you work, and unfortunately some of those things are required, right? So like unfortunately it's like, hey, yes, you could commit your like AWS secret right into the source code because you're like the only person around, right? And I have like a friends that are um in the kind of like the freelance and all that stuff, and on Upwork it is like a perfectly normal thing for you to say, hey, I have a job, like go I need to this bug to be fixed, here's my FTP with user and password that is like read write, right? So like with all of the permissions, and here's the file where the bug is, tell me the price that you're going to need to fix it, right? And then I will choose you. So there are 10 more people who have the same production FTP access or SSH, right? Like it doesn't matter, it's like whatever they use, but like the amount of insecurity kind of like in those systems that like in those processes, right? It's like basically on the public internet you have your FTP right access, and it's like, well, that seemed fine for that situation, but like you can't do that in a production, like in a kind of product in a company, right? Because like if everyone would do this, like the company will not survive, right? So for him, for solo dev, of course, all of this sounds like a red tape, right? But for like a security head of security in a big corporation, all of this stuff is like stuff that is like a lower lower level requirement, because it's like, oh, otherwise like the people will like store AWS secrets in the Git and all that stuff, right? Oh no, oh no, I scrolled it, oh no.
Life like a living hell, you know. There's frameworks now that raise money. They understand there's new technologies that don't even
And from a teacher, it was just the majority of
yeah.
websites security was frameworks or
They're
common approaches. That's
thing with big corporations, like 80% of the people
Yeah.
don't do anything. It's like
right.
it's not efficient, and if your benchmark is like people building stuff that actually gets done, and like for society, right? Like if we want to save time, we should probably use technology um, that's simple, that's pragmatic, that's like that works, that's not overly complicated, doesn't.
Yeah, so half of this is true, half is not, right? So like the half that is true is like, well, like we want our stuff kind of like to be efficient, right? Like we don't want to be spinning, kind of like spending our time in meetings, all that stuff, right? Like if our goal is to make a product that like works and actually helps someone, well, probably like if you focus on the, um, let's say you're a Twitter, right? So like if you as a Twitter want to kind of like make the world better, right? You you can probably be built with like a team of 10, right? But because you're not just Twitter, you're competing with Threads, you're competing with Instagram, competing with YouTube. There needs to be like a 100 people team that is like experimenting with like a smallest dopamine hits on your application, because your hits should be slightly better than the hits of all of your competition, right? That's what like that's what makes it complicated, right? It's like we are not optimizing on the basics, right? Like his products are optimized on the basics. It's like you give me this thing, I give you this thing. It's like the transaction is finished, thank you, right? But like the amount of crap that like there's probably, I don't know, like a 5-year project like somewhere at YouTube that is like, hey, if we do this, we might like increase on conversion by like 1%, right? It's like all of those kind of like shavings, all of those like very small payoff things that like he wouldn't spend his time on, right? But like once you're at like YouTube scale, it's like 1% is a huge deal, right? And like, and you can afford write 5 frameworks or however like Google has, right? Just to see which one is better and all that stuff. So yeah, uh, it's tricky.
Make your life like a living hell, you know.
And
And
use a framework when it obviously solves a problem, a direct
yeah,
problem that you.
of course, of course. I'm not saying you should code without a
Yeah, well, the problem is like both of them don't know what frameworks are. They both don't know what problems they solve. So it's like a bit abstract when they're talking about it.
framework. You should use whatever you want, but yeah, I think it's suspicious, you know. And I think it's suspicious
Okay.
when I talk about it on Twitter. Like there's this army comes out, you know.
Yeah.
There's these framework armies.
Yeah.
It's, man,
Yeah, I'm like a soldier in the framework army.
something my gut tells me.
I want to ask the framework army, what have they built this week? It's the Elon question. What did you do this week?
Yeah, and did you make
Yeah, and this is kind of like a bit stupid argument, right? And again, the what the doodle said, kind of exactly the same thing. Is like, oh yeah, of course, like I did this thing, I did like that thing. It's and like I use framework, and it's kind of like no different, right? There are like other people, other startups that are using like different other technologies, and again, like most of them are using some sort of framework. So like trying to say that's like, hey, my way is better, while like 99% of other people doing it differently, and they're also making money, they're also making projects, and it's like what are you talking about? Like this is the stupidest thing that you could ever say, right?
money with it? You know, did you charge users? Is it a real business? And um, yeah.
So going back to the cowboy. First of
Well,
all,
some don't look like you, right? But some do.
every aspect of this is pretty incredible. I'm also just looking at the interface; it's really well done.
Yeah, so this is very well done
Right? But some
interface.
do.
Every
uh,
aspect of this is pretty
showed.
incredible. I'm also just looking at the.
Yeah, so this is a very well done interface, right? So like it's kind of like white on white. So like what is this one, right? Like, well, I think it says make video, but like how do I know that? Well, I'm just guessing it's like white on white, right? So I think Lex is a bit like too easily impressed, right? This would never go close to the amount of attention that like Ryan Florence spends on the Trello demo, right? It's like all of his stuff should be like exactly perfect and like exactly great, right? And it's like this wouldn't be merged, right? This is a completely like unacceptable,
The interface is really well done. So this is
right? So this is a very well done. Like what exactly is very well done, right? Like it's done by if you would show this to me, I would say, okay, so it was done by a person who wanted to get it kind of like done as quickly as possible, and he he like I don't want to kind of like dunk on him too much. There is like some attention to detail. There are like um, um, there are like some things that he kind of like geeked out on and like wanted to figure out, right? But most of it is kind of like utilitarian, right? It's like most of it is there just to get it kind of like done as quickly as possible. So I wouldn't be like fanning out on this and like saying that's like, oh, this is like the best thing ever. And there's probably like for each, I don't know, like 100 by 100 like square kind of like worth of UI. There's probably like so many improvements that you can do there that you can hire a team of 10 people and they will be working for like 2 years, right? It's just a question of like where do you stop, and like do you stop at just like the minimum bare level, or do you go deeper, right? And that's probably like the difference between like doing it by yourself or doing in a bigger team.
all just jQuery, and
Yeah.
this is really well done. So like, take me through the journey of photo AI. Like, you don't know much. Most of the world doesn't know much about stable diffusion or any of this, any of
Yeah.
this generative AI stuff. And so you're thinking, okay, how?
Right. So I think that's finally the end. um, I actually want to try to edit this down in a kind of like a smaller chunk. I know that like people are not going to like share like a 1 hour video. I need to find time to kind of like cut those into. Um, I did this thing whereas was like a kind of like a reaction video that I did before, uh, where there were like a couple of them that are just like cut from the thing, and my most successful video, of course, is just cut of Primogen. he did tell me that like he's okay with that, so uh, so that should be fine. Uh, yeah, so that video still like gets requests, and then because his video is like maybe like 20 minutes, right? So like people in search, when they see 5 minute video and 20-minute video, they're like, well, I can probably do the 5 minute video. If it's like it's good enough, I might then just like watch the 20-minute video, right? And that's kind of like my thinking on it is like, yes, I did like an hour now, but no one is going to click on it. So yeah. Okay. So this was the kind of like the first part. I don't know if I want to do like any sort of like conclusion. Yeah. So in conclusion, yeah, maybe this. Yeah. So in conclusion, um, again, this is like I'm taking like kind of like 3 minute video, right, and like talking about kind of like saying like, hey, like it's missing some nuance, right, and they didn't have like all the time in the world to go through all the nuance, but unfortunately, I think like kind of like both Lex and Peter kind of like not deep enough into this world so that they can kind of like very confidently kind of like talk about it. So they're talking kind of like a bit surface level, a bit like in general, it would be good to do it like this, or in general, it would be good to do that. So of course I have, of course I have some issues with the stuff that they're saying, and I think it's kind of like a curve, right? So there is a curve of like kind of like 80-20, right? As like if I want to do something quickly and I want to get most of it out, what is the way to do it? And especially for him, given the familiarity with the tools that he has, of course this is going to work for him, right? And I would say that if he would spend some time, right, and focus on him kind of like being a developer, as opposed to him being as a um, entrepreneur or whatever, right, or a businessman or manager or whatnot, is like, of course, as a developer, I would say like the next step is just like learn Laravel, right? Like learn just like a slightly more frameworky way of doing it. And once you use it a bit, you will say, "Oh, that's why they're doing it. Oh, that's why that's like they're doing it, right?" And um, the argument of, well, it makes money. I don't care how it looks, right? This is a very kind of like capitalistic way of thinking, and yeah, let's. I don't see how you can kind of like argue too hard with that. Like the capitalism is selling the worst possible product at the highest possible price, right? And he's really good at it. For him, making a better product and selling it for the same price is of course not like good, right? Like why would he spend his time making product better if no one is going, if like more people not going to use it, right? So like, well, maybe like improve the like the accessibility or some other like aspects of his thing, right? And now like 1% more people are going to sign up. Is that worth it, right? Like, is that worth his time and all that stuff? And this is where I think the this is where I think the like it makes sense for like a team, right? So like if I'm a bigger company and I can afford to make my product a bit better, not because I'm competing with myself, but because I'm like competing with someone else, right? It's like that's where I will make my button like slightly fancier because it's not it's not like the clients that I would have got anyway is the clients that I'm getting away from like someone else, right? And in the interview, he had like a moment where he was saying like, well, and then they did like a phone version of my application, and like they made all the money, right? So like his whole business idea is that like bigger companies like didn't compete with him yet, right? Because bigger companies can hire like real developers to do the same thing that he's doing but like 10 times better, right? And he's not competing with those, he's competing kind of like with himself. So that's probably where I want to leave it. And if any of them, if Peter or Lex want to learn web development, I would be I would be glad to help. I feel like I have the like my perspective on this is that like I'm uh, I'm doing projects on like on a different scale, and I can kind of like jump back and forth, and I can like do this thing the like the right way, do this thing the faster way and whatnot. So I feel like I can guide them if they ever want to do it. And okay, I think that's it. And I don't know, like and subscribe or something. And now we're going to do the different thing. So this is should probably write this down so that I have it in like in the description. And yeah, of course, this. Okay, and now. Uh, okay. Yeah, so now this thing. Uh, okay, need to ban this person. And, okay. Yeah. So now the next topic, which I hope hope I will have enough time. I was hoping that it's going to be some sort of nice nice follow from one to another. Yeah, but like the reaction section went a bit longer, so I don't know. Okay, so everyone is tweeting about this cursor thing, which I hope this is the right one. And I'm like, oh no, like I have FOMO for AI thing. I need to do something. Um, and this is just as we have uh, uh, just as we have uh, at work, we got permission to use Copilot. It's like as soon as the Copilot became the mainstream thing, there's something new. And a lot of people also talk about like ChatGPT versus Claude. I don't know where exactly I was trying Claude, but like I wasn't like I didn't see it like being way better. So who knows? And I don't use like ChatGPT too much. So like I'm using it mostly now to like to draw pictures for kids. So it's like yeah, I found all the things that like where it doesn't work, right? So um yeah, I don't know how to I don't know how to find it now. Yeah, so it's like I have a thing with um somewhat like a clear like end result is like I can test if this works or not, right? And it's like, well, I have this spec, but like I can't turn it into a code. It's like this task is too complicated and too novel for like AI to help me in some way, right? And like someone tried, someone's like, here's this screenshot from yeah, so Luna like here's a screenshot from Claude, and it's like, well, that doesn't work. This is like this is completely like the wrong direction. This is and all that stuff. So yeah, so all the LLM stuff is like for the simple stuff. Copilot is good because it's like a lower latency and it's hey, copy this thing, uh, like add type to this thing, right? So like it's very kind of it's kind of like right away there, and the like going to ChatGPT to ask my question to kind of like to spend all of my time kind of like explaining it, and for you to get like the stupid answer that doesn't work. It's I don't know, it's not too much. Yeah, so Z is interesting. So I had like an issue. I think like because I have like too many like VS Code plugins, sometimes there are like one version of a plugin comes out and it will just like hold the CPU and whatnot. And it's like, okay, VS Code is unusable. I need to wait for like the fix to show up in like a few days. And I use that for that. It's like when the VS Code kind of like died, I'm using that. But there are like too many things that I kind of like got used to. The same thing where like when I was switching from Sublime to VS Code, it was like a long time. It's like I think I was trying to move to Atom as well. It's like no, there's like all the hotkeys are kind of like not exactly the same and all that stuff. So not there with Z yet. But yeah, I think they're like Vim shortcuts are like pretty good. I think I spent like a long time trying to find like a good shortcuts in VS Code. But like they worked right away in Z, so that was fun. Uh, okay, so LLMs are dead. No one uses LLMs. Let's do LLMs. There is demo. I think I saw something on Twitter before, so I don't know if I care about it. Yeah, so maybe if I will get stuck, I will watch it. Um, yes, so we're downloading installer 300 kilobytes. Well, that's not good. I was going to go to virus total and check, but if it's 800 kilobytes, it's not going to help me. Okay. Oh no, that's a different one. This one, right? So, oh no, what's going on? Okay, install. Extract. Okay. I'm wondering at what point they're going to ask for my credit card. That's the part that that's the part that I'm most confused. Okay, so it's funny that like I want Veeam motions, but I want VS Code shortcuts. So I don't know. I usually start with VS Code. Language. I think English is fine. Yeah, and code base wide is like the thing that I wanna kind of like try. Uh, launch terminal using code or cursor. Well, I kind of like don't care about either of them, but let's at least not do the code one because that feels too much. I already have code. Like, why would you not? Okay. Instantly import your extension settings and key bindings from VS Code to make your simple. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to do that. Yeah, telemetry. I think I'm fine usually with telemetry. Okay. Avoid abuse. Okay, you need to. Okay. Well, if I'm going to skip all the AI features, that feels like I'm not going to use it at all. um, okay, so let's sign up with GitHub because that's the one that feels more developy. Okay. Okay, so there's tutor, which kind of like don't care, but let's see. Yeah. Okay. So highlight code and command key. Okay. Accept and autocomplete. Try typing and hit tab when you see suggestions. Ask questions. Okay. So tab, command key, and command L. Okay, chat. Yeah. Use add to import files. Highlight code, command shift L. Okay. I think we already had command key. Okay. Particular piece of code. Okay. Try with the code base button and ask about entire repo. Okay. If you run into any trouble or have any feedback, feel free to post blah blah blah. We don't care. Okay. So I think the idea is that they gave me some projects. So like if I'm afraid to uh, the screen is frozen. Oh, thank you for saying that. That happens from time to time. I don't remember how I fix it. I think okay, that's a webcam. Okay, yeah, it did die. Okay, so oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah, thank you again for saying it. I did a stream once when I streamed for hour and a half. I think maybe not an hour, at least like an hour, and it just died. Okay, so I need to do studio mode, and then I need to go to my screen sound capture, and I need to restart the capture. Okay, it didn't restart. I need to. Oh, oh, that's not good. Properties? Yeah, maybe this. So it's display capture. Okay. Yeah, okay. And now I can go back and turn off studio mode. Okay, I think we're back. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. It's like hard for me to notice that. I need to write like a bot that flashes I don't know QR code and checks if if it's alive. Okay. Yeah, so try generating. Okay. And where's this one? Okay, so try generating React component that lets you play tic-tac-toe. Then integrate it into your code below and run with npm start. Try highlighting all the code when you with your mouse and hit interact with it to change the game some way. Okay. Then try on your own project. Okay. So I guess let's try their thing. Um, so ask for CLI based game of tic-tac-toe. Uh, okay. Okay, so well, let's try. So I'm doing funny that like it shows me the Grammarly thing. Oh, I don't know how to turn it off. I have like a special plugin for managing focus, and it's like killing it. I don't have it on work computer, so I should probably just like give up on it and not use it. Okay, are you going to? Yes. Okay, finally, right here. Okay, so I'm going to do. Oh yeah. So I did log in with their thing, but they didn't ask me for a credit card yet. So I wonder how that part works. Um, so new instructions. Okay, so my instructions are make me CLI. Yeah, you know that LLMs didn't win yet until you have autocomplete in the prompt. So like if I'm typing here and you don't know what I'm asking, like are you even AGI yet? So make me CLA based game of tic tac toe. I guess that's it. Okay, enter. Okay, def random print board winner. Okay, and accept. Okay, so far pretty close to Copilot, maybe a bit faster and a bit more code based. Is like in Copilot, it will like talk to you instead of just showing the code. Okay, hit Command L or Control L. Okay, and ask the chat what the code does. Okay, well that's easy. Okay, so that's the chat interface. What does this code do? Okay, and it will use the current file. Okay, that makes sense. And now it's Claude something something sonnet. Okay, and it's actually reading other files. Okay, interesting. The code derives several blah blah blah, the functional handle, the game logic. Okay, that's pretty boring. Try highlighting all the code with your mouse. Who would highlight with your mouse? And then hit Command K. Instructed to change the game in some way. Color, start screen, make 404. Okay. Okay. So let's do this, right? So like it did this code, and if I do Python 3 main, guess Python. No, yeah, it's project Python main. Okay, so it doesn't work. Okay, cool. That's always a good sign of AI working. On terminated string literal on line 15. Okay, so the line 15. Oh, interesting. Is that, did I do that, or is that like the AI put it in? Okay, so welcome to tic-tac-toe. Your X and the computer is O. Enter the number from 1 to 9 to make your move. Okay, interesting. But like I don't know which one is the, like I don't know which one is 4, right? Like 1 2 3 4 or 1 2 3 4. Okay, so let's say like the winning one is 1 2 3 4 5, right? So like you should always start with 5. Okay, computer turn. Then you do 2, and you do, no, shouldn't have done 2. Should have done 1. Well, that was bad. Now I do. Yeah, I think I lost now. Okay, now you do 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, 6. Now 9 and 4. Okay. Oh, he did let me win. Okay, that's interesting. Uh, win combination. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And I guess the bot just plays randomly, I guess. Let's just try it again. So it was 5. Yeah, and it played there. Okay. Um, okay. So now let's do this, right? And it's like uh make it allow, oh, what happened? Okay, let's try again. Allow me to press Q to exit. Okay, certainly I'll modify the code. Okay, but like how would I know what it modifies? Right, it just shows me the new version. And how do I apply it? Okay, there's apply button. Okay, now it shows everything. Okay, well that's better. It's funny that like it changed everything. You would assume that like if you're asking for one thing, right? Like you're asking just for this, like why does it do so many changes? Okay, accept and save and play. Enter your move. Quit. Thanks for playing. Okay. okay, well that wasn't bad. Try occupy itself. I think I did. So if I do one and then one, yeah, it says that it's an invalid mode. Or like if I do their cell, right? Or if I do like 10, right? So I think it's doing things. So now let's say that I want to open chat. Yeah, so that's instructions, that's chat. So I'm saying, please add test file and play a couple. Yeah, please add test file. Let's do it simple. So certainly I'll create a test file using this module. Blah blah blah. Okay, and you can run those tests by running. Okay, so now I want to do this. I want to do create a bash file that will run the test, right? So I didn't apply those changes yet. So like, will it know to do all of those things? Okay. Save and okay. See, I need to make it executable. Okay, that's fun. So apply changes. Okay, so far the onboarding experience is actually like pretty good. So I was expecting better. Sorry, worse, to be honest. Okay, so it did tell me what it wants to do. It didn't like actually do it. Okay, so if I do like apply this one, I guess, right? Apply to the current file. No, not the current file. Okay, interesting. So it got confused though. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's not good. Um, so use OpenChat, highlight code, and focus. Yeah, try this code base. So there should be like some sort of way to tell it not just one file. Yeah, so with code base. Okay, so save those files. So now if I do with code base, okay, so it's reading the files. Certainly. I've saved the files you provided. Where did you say? Okay. Well, that was fun. Yeah. So how do I? Yeah. So how do I start a chat that is like not related to any of the files, right? So like I will close all the files and I will close the chat. And now I open the chat. Yeah, nothing happens. Chat, cancel chat, open chat, open chat. Okay, so I can open chat and can I clear it? Yeah, new chat. Okay, so new chat. Write test for tic tac toe game. Oh, someone followed.
Jav Gongoro is now following.
Yay, this is so cool. This is my 100th follower. I'm finally in the big leagues now. Thank you. So write test for tic tac toe game. Okay, so that's it. Certainly happy, blah blah blah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's funny that we are still in the same situation. Huh. This so far this is going worse than I. So far this is going worse than I expected. Does it not have permissions to create file? Well, I think. Can I go to old chat? That would be interesting thing. So like, can I go previous chats? Okay, so if I go to this one, where it was talking about like bash, yeah. So there's one. So it wanted to create this file, right? So if I go to Python and I create this file, I wonder if I start the chat. Um, Yeah. So if I start chat here and now add test for the game. Okay. So presumably it will do something. So I will add a test. Right. So hopefully it like generated the same file, right? But now, yeah, so it's like it's a test for this file. So like all of this stuff is right. Make sure to import necessary functions from blah blah blah, right? But like it will not create the file until I press apply. So now that I pressed apply, so that's the file is there now. And now if I go back to the chat history again, that was this one, right? And it was run test.sh. So if I go and if I go and create test.sh, I can actually just apply it here. Yeah, so apply to current file. Okay. And so this I had to run manually, right? Because otherwise it will like override my file, which is not exactly what we want to do, right? So we need to just copy it and we need to, what's going on? Some key parties don't work. Yeah, I don't care. So I want to go to projects, Python, right? And it's a good thing, right? Because I don't care about Python. Python command not found. Okay. So interesting. Can I? Yes. Can I do this? Okay. Yeah. So far it's doing surprisingly well. I still can't just like on autopilot, just like yeah. I think it's okay, it's Python command did this. Yeah, it's just like it just made it way more more complicated. But okay, older test run. So now I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to say I'm just going to like move things around and introduce a bug, and I will say that the test failed, right? And now I will add this to the chat, and we'll see what it does. Interesting that it's yeah, this line number. I think that's like from the terminal. Okay, so blah blah blah. It looks like the test checker test failing. Specifically, they expect blah blah blah. The problem is likely check winner function. I don't. Okay, so I think we broke it, right? So the problem was in the test, right? So like I I changed the test. Now it's trying to fix the code, right? So like it took us 2 steps for this thing to completely get lost in 2 files, right? I'm not saying I understand what's going on with those 2 files, but it just like if you're going to this with the expectation that like you don't know, you don't need to learn how to code, you can just like let machine decide, right? At some point you will need to know kind of like what's going on. Oh, I wonder if the tests are wrong. Okay, so I'm still surprised that like there's no credit card charging happening. Okay. Yeah, this tests are actually incorrect. It's expecting to blah blah blah. It doesn't have in a row. Blah blah blah. Okay, so what's the fix? Let's correct the test. Okay. Okay, now it changes different. Okay. Well. Okay. So I have all the I have the all the I have all the proof that I need that like well, like AI is not taking our job. But yeah, it's just like it's just funny. Okay. Uh, it's doing like some sounds when I press stuff. It's a bit concerning, but okay. So I don't know what accept autocomplete doesn't work. Oh yeah, it's like if you're doing tab. Okay. Well, we can do tab. I guess we can do um check if Python command was found. Uh, Python not found. Please is a Python. Um, yeah, let's say. Oh, I don't have the. I don't have Vim. Listen, so Python 3 or additive path. Okay, so now I'm done with my autocomplete. So let's go to JavaScript file, and one of the kind of like annoying things that you usually have is like window dot yeah. So like all of this stuff is showing up, and it's like if I press tab, am I tabbing on the autocomplete or am I tabbing on the other one, right? That's the, I guess it's enter too. Yeah, so this is slightly annoying. Yeah, and the annoying sounds are pretty annoying. I don't know who's doing the annoying sounds. I can probably turn them off. So that at least it's not annoying you guys. Where do I turn it off? This one. Okay, let's try. Let's try the annoying thing again. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully at least you don't hear it. Um. Yeah. That's pretty annoying. I don't know where to turn it off. Okay. So now we're going to. So now this is where my how to say it. This is now where my big plan is coming together. So the big idea here is, oh yeah, they're doing this thing on the side, which is slightly annoying, but this side is also taken. So yeah, so I wanted to do a tutorial that is like how to do a web thing. I did this thing before. Uh, npm package. It's funny that like it actually shows up in Google sometime. Yes, not on the first page, but like close, right? So how to create a package, right? And uh, yeah, I think my fonts are off. What's happening with fonts? Okay, well, um, so this is the thing of like how do you kind of like do like a small package. I want to do the next part. I want to do the 2025 probably is JSR. I'm like waiting for them to fix kind of like one more one more issue before I can jump in. But yeah, I think it's high time. I need to write it in the next month. But like, how would you create a web app in 2025? Right? Like, what do you do? Where do you start? And the joke is that you start with AI. So we want to start with AI. We want to say that's like, well, of course it's Astro, but like, don't spoil it. Like, why? So the idea is that we want to go. I want to probably do it um, as like a proper thing that I'm going to publish on the GitHub now. Uh, so I will create a folder. We will say website 25, right? So I will just go there and cursor. Yes, right. So now I'm in a new thing, and I'm like, let's talk to the people who know how to code. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it's pretty annoying without like all the hotkeys. I wonder if I should like import extensions and settings though, just to make my life slightly easier. I don't like install too much. That's my problem. But yeah, it'll just start doing too many things. Okay, so let's give it a second. Cannot find biome. Yeah, yeah. I will need to kill like the big the big bad ones. Uh the ones that are like always messing up with stuff. So I would need to kill biome and console ninja. When it works, it's so cool. When it doesn't, it's so bad. Maybe elixir once. Yeah. Okay. So let's hope that it's kind of like enough. Copilot. Okay. Also copilot. Oh, interesting. Okay. Where's the chat? Copilot. Okay. Table and okay, this one also disabled. Okay, that's good. Okay, so hopefully that's it. So here's where we start talking to the bots, and we're saying, I want to start a new project, new web project. Where do you think I should start? I wonder if I should watch that video though. It's like I wonder if I'm like missing some of the like the get started parts. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm not missing anything. So let's start. Define your project goals, choose a tech stack, blah blah blah. Okay, so npx create react app. Okay, that's not very modern of you. Um, I want to start with Astro. Yeah, yeah. It's I'm trying to actually want to do like the want to do kind of like a tutorial that's kind of like Copilot tutorial, so I can share with my like colleagues and whatnot because as I said, we started using Copilot now. And the analogy that I want to do is like the like Mid Journey, right? You go to Mid Journey, you're like, hey, make me a lady in a hat, and you're like, well, you see that like it kind of looks like a lady in a hat, but like all the fingers are in the wrong place. That's how kind of like Copilot works. It's like you shouldn't trust the fingers. It's not going to be correct because it works exactly the same way. Okay, so create new Astro project, navigate to a project, start development server, open 3000, which is not 3000 anymore, start building, and version control. Okay. Funny that like it says git init. Astro actually does init now. It doesn't do the git add though. So okay, so this is not the bad instructions. We also say I want to use Bond instead of npm as my package manager. Yeah, 4-3-2-1 is great. It's Chris's idea. I think it fits Astro like very good. So okay. So okay, install Bond. Yeah, that's a great, yeah, excellent choice. That's cool. Okay, so Bond create. Okay, so let's start with Bond create. And it's funny that like VS Code is integrated with terminal, right? So it's like I can use it like in this terminal, but like if I use this one, I can easily copy paste it. So I think it's a great kind of like idea. So the problem is that I want to do the current folder, so that's going to be a bit funky using project directory. Okay, so do they do help? Yeah, so install dependencies, initialize git, TypeScript, branch. Oh, okay, there. Yeah, so this is there. If I do this, will that work? Okay. Welcome to Astro. Let's build something awesome. Include sample files, use block template, empty. Their templates actually don't have too much stuff that I need. And I think for tutorial, it makes sense to start with empty. We want to try TypeScript? Yes. Yeah, so if it was a tutorial, I would say start with Astro, right? Like, what do you select? We are not going to select anything. And what are we going to do with TypeScript? Strictest is fine. I think there are like a few options that you need to turn off, but otherwise it's fine. Initialize the Git repo. Everything is good. So we can skip the Git init part. We still need to do this. Okay. Okay, so git add and git commit. Okay, didn't work. Okay, interesting. Why didn't you work? Okay, I think it worked. Yeah, I guess I looked at it different. Okay, so so now the bot said that we should do on start, right? And it's on the wrong port according to the bot, but it's there, right? So this is how I would say you should be. Oh, hi, Nicola. Ever like for some reason I was like Nikita. No, like I'm saying it wrong. Uh, uh, I think you subscribed to my not subscribed, but like followed my Twitch from like your 3 accounts. So thank you so much. It helped. Now I have 100 followers. Um, okay, so now I guess just like a tiny recap since you just joined. So the idea here is that we are trying out this new editor that everyone says is the best thing after sliced bread. It took us 2 files to get it confused, but we are trying anyway. We are doing basically a kind of like a tutorial, right? My first part of the video was about like Lex and Levelsio guy, which is like they don't understand what they're talking about. I was like, how would I teach them to do web, right? And I guess they understand Git, right? Like there are some basics that like I'm skipping, but like how would you start web? And for web, I would say start with Astro. Like why Astro? Because that's the close that's the closest thing to bare bones while still having all the features, right? Like you can always make it more complicated while starting with something really simple. That's the webbiest thing. Yeah, I'm glad that Astro is like picking up, and I think it's they deserve it. So the the thing that is the thing that doesn't make much difference for one person, right? If you're just starting, you can live without it. But if you're kind of like aiming closer to the team level, right? The basics that you want to do is like prettier, right? So there are like some people who are doing biome. So let's ask the AI what they think. So I want to add prettier. I want to add format checker. Should I use prettier biome or Dino format? I think it's called for my project. Uh, I need it. I need it to be able to format Astro and Markdown files. I use all. You use all formatters, or you use all Astro things? Yeah. So, uh, newer primary format, blah blah blah. Yeah. So like Dino doesn't have Astro as far as I understand. Biome might have it, but like I don't know how to check it, and it looks like the like AI doesn't know either. You use Biome and Prettier. Yeah, I think that's the setup for now. I think like I just wish you know how like in ESLint you can like make Prettier run inside of ESLint. So like if you have a team that like doesn't know how to run Prettier but they know how to run ESLint, you can kind of like trick them into using Prettier. Like I wish that for like Biome, so that you can just like use Biome for everything, but it will like pull in Prettier when it doesn't support the format. Biome is semi good for us. Oh, interesting. I haven't tried it, and it's like Prettier is actually bad for Astra. There are like some things that like it doesn't understand. Sometimes you like change something, save it, and it's like it just like deleted half of the file, and it's like no, 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 please don't do that. Okay, so I think it tells us to do Prettier, which is not the worst idea possible. So we will follow. So we install Prettier, create configuration file. Yeah, so that's again like the part that's creepy, right? It's like what configuration file? What is the name of the of the thing, right? So like it says us to create this file, but like you can't just press a button to create this file. You have to copy the file name. You have to like new file, right? And now when I'm inside of this file, I can apply changes, right? Which is not the end of the world, but it's yeah. So if I do apply, okay, so I need to click on this button. Now I do apply here, right? So that kind of works. Okay, so yeah, but like here I don't have the file name, right? So okay, so I'm replying to this. What is the file name? Okay, so the file name is this. And again, because I don't have this file yet, it can't refer to it. I have to create it first. Now that I created it, I can go. Right. Okay, it doesn't let me scroll, but like now I can apply it. Okay. Okay. So now I did all of this stuff. So I think it's the tricky part is that if you don't understand anything that's happening, it will take you kind of like a bit of like a wrong direction, and it won't have mind to get you back. But like if you know kind of like enough of what you need to do, and you just like uh pushing it into the right direction, I think it actually good. Install Prettier plugin Astro, and it works fine. Yeah, it works fine, but I just had some like unfortunate mishaps. Okay, so I think we were here, right? So like now we can run format, and now it formatted our files, and we are going to need everything. Yeah, diff works. I don't know if they fixed it or like I fixed it at some point, but it works now. So now, yeah, so now it formatted it and all that stuff. So we're going to say add prettier. Yeah, so I would say that this is a good kind of like a good step. And now let's okay. So I want to push this repo to my GitHub. I do have GitHub CLI installed. Okay, and again, like you need to know that you have all that stuff, right? Okay, so create a repo, blah blah blah. Oh, interesting. It just allows you to run it. Okay, then I need to check it. It didn't show run for other files, other like commands, but maybe it did. Like I just didn't notice. Oh yeah, I guess it did. Okay, that's cool. So we did all the commits files, right? So create repo, my Astro project, public source, remote origin, all that stuff. So I want to reply. I want to say my project name is website 2025. Okay. Okay, so create public source. Okay, so this looks good. Okay, and I did run it. Okay, that's funky. Okay, and now browse. Yeah, it's interesting that like it highlights errors, which is like a very it. I would feel like this is a very easy thing to do in VS Code, right? But it's more important in a situation where you just copy pasting stuff into CLI and like not understanding what is going on to show that you actually have an error and AI can debug it. It's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah. So okay, I'm liking it. Uh so now the next step is uh again, this like imagine this is a tutorial, right? Like imagine we're like teaching Lex or Peter how to do web. You create a repo, you set up some of the like dev tools that you like. List goes on, but like let's start with Prettier, for example, and you do deploy it just so that you can like know how to do it, so that you don't get yourself into like a too big of a mess and it's like, oh, I can't deploy anything yet. And here I would say now I want to deploy it to Vercel. We have Vercel CLI installed, right? Okay, so to deploy a project, simply run this. Vercel CLI will give you blah blah blah. I want to set up uh, automatic deployment for Git push. Okay, so if you haven't already linked your Vercel project, you do this with Vercel link. Okay, Vercel link. Setup project, yes. Hierarchy. Link to existing project, no. What is your project name? Website. Code here. Setting up. By default, okay, didn't read it yet. Do you want to modify those settings? No, those settings seems fine. Okay, so I created some sort of okay, added stuff to git ignore. And is there any like config or something it created? No, it didn't. Okay, I guess that's close enough. And so now I want to do git. Okay, I should be using like the mouse more. Okay, so run this command. Okay, so fail to connect. Make sure there aren't typos you have access to, and the repo is not private. Huh. Okay. They're also saying that I should update my Vercel global, which might be not a bad idea. Okay. So failed to connect to project. Make sure there aren't any typos and you have access. Okay. Don't know what that means. Okay. Okay. So let's try it again, and we will like debug it with the eye. Thoughts. Searching for Vercel JSON. Okay. We won't find it, I guess. Yeah, it could be due to several reasons. Might not exist or use it. Oh yeah, I don't have the yeah. Vercel doesn't have doesn't have access to repo with their token. I have like a token that is like has like a limited access to projects, and this project is like is not one of them, right? So go to GitHub, find applications integrations, look for Vercel, yeah, or go to your Vercel. After making those changes, try connect. Okay, I guess let's follow what they told us, right? So navigate to applications or integrations. Don't know what it is. Okay, I probably don't want to do that on screen sharing as well. So let me check first that like I don't have something too bad there. So I'm going to settings. I'm going to find applications there. Okay, and now I'm searching Vercel. I'm pressing configure. Tells me my security stuff. And now I'm here. Yeah, and it's like selected repos. So I'm selecting more repos, pressing save. Okay, it sent me to Vercel website now. um, okay, so let's try this again. Connected. Okay. Well, so this is like kind of like my fault. Uh, like someone who's starting, they're like they don't care about permissions as much, so it should be fine. So now I want to go back to the previous chat that we had, where it was everything. And yeah, so it's going to be set up Vercel. Okay, and which is a good thing to actually try, right? So how do I open my deployed website? Yeah, I don't have E because my kids were playing with my computer and they well, my E key doesn't work anymore. Okay, so they're saying that I can do Vercel open, which I don't know if that's true. It's not. And Vercel project, which is more true. Okay. Sure, I trust this. Okay, so deployment not found. Yeah, it's not good. Okay, so let's see what we have on the Vercel's dashboard. Okay, so no productions deployments yet. Okay, are there any deployments yet? Okay, no. Did I push that thing? Yeah, no. Okay, let's fix that. Yeah, so I think their advice was not entirely bad. Yeah, and like I think the biggest difference so far is that it's pretty fast, right? So like compared to a regular kind of like ChatGPT, it's kind of like too noisy, and it's like while it's telling you everything about its life, you're just like waiting and waiting and waiting. Here, it's a bit more kind of like lively. Okay, so now trying again. We were trying like this. Yeah, so I think it's kind of like fine advice on what it's giving us, and it works, right? So this is how you do web, right? So now I can go uh, to my thing, right, and I can say, oh, interesting that it's asked for follow up. Okay, so I'm gonna say um, change the title of the website to um, web website 2025, right? So presumably it will find all the files where the name is mentioned, and it will update it, which is, I think, like on Twitter I saw like a different UI, so this is still slightly confusing. And again, it doesn't give me the file names, so it's like, yeah, yeah. And because I'm doing this all in the thread where I'm like, hey, I'm a noob, I'm starting a website, it actually like reminds me how to push stuff in. So I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm here and I'm doing apply. So this is actually, this makes sense. Um, here's the change might look like. Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting that it's trying to give me this pattern that like I'm not actually using. This is so confusing. Yeah, but there's no easy way. If I don't understand how to create files, it seems like I wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, missing some chats. I found pieces really helpful. What is pieces? Your workflow copilot. Okay, what does that mean? So I guess it's like a similar scope to this. Oh no, once you get to know AI model, then it's helpful. Oh no, oh no. Yeah, so it looks kind of like similar, right? Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that, yeah, it's interesting like the big thing that I got from Twitters was that like you can just like ask it to make a bunch of changes, but I think it's harder for it to create new stuff compared to making changes. Okay, so this is actually like the change is actually good, right? So like so git commit uh, uh, rename website. Uh, uh, I guess I don't remember my own syntax. This? Yeah, this is like a shortcut. So like, okay. So now presumably all of this is kind of like happening. There's a new deployment. Right in 13 seconds. Yeah, take that, Kubernetes. Right, 13 seconds is probably just the time for you to like download Docker, right? And now the website is live. So Pieces as AI companion. Yeah, I have a wife. I don't have time for that. For AI companions. I'm joking, but Marvel Snap Simulator. Okay. Um, yes. So this is like kind of like a bit of setup, right? So like we spent how long from initial commit to now more than 20 minutes, right? So that's where PHP people are like winning, right? So like they just go push credit card number, they get FTP thing, they put a file, and it's done, right? Like when they need a second change, they just change the file and it's done. So this is definitely kind of like a bit of a craft, a bit of like setup that you need to do. Um, but still, compared to Kubernetes, we're feeling fine. Um, so now the question is like, what do you do now, right? And the question here is goes kind of like, again, just a tutorial, right? So like you have an idea, you want to do a website, like what do you do? So the cheapest way of doing something is actually just building a static web application and just like using some sort of like third party services to do the rest, right? So a lot of people use Firebase. Supabase is pretty popular and like pretty free, right? And that's where you can then you can store users, that's where you can store files, that's where you can do kind of like a bit of like more backendy things, so that your website continues to be static, continues to be kind of like cheap and free and fast, right? But if you want to do um, if you want to do stuff that is a bit more kind of like content based, right? So like if you're building a blog, and on this blog you want to have like posts, right? And it's like it doesn't require backend, you just save a file, right? That's where Astro is like very good. That's where Astro has that's where Astro has a bunch of like how to say it? A bunch of like features. Sorry. I've been meaning to stream for like a week now, and I've been sick. I've been thinking, okay, I think I have like enough of my like voice back, so I can try, right? So the idea is that if you're kind of like thinking about this thing as as just like a lender, right? You you don't need to do anything else. So this is already kind of like enough, and this is already the stuff that you kind of like you as like Lex and Peter, right? Like you already know that this is kind of like how you do something, right? Like if you need jQuery, you're just like do they do jQuery in head or body? I don't remember. I think it's in body, right? So like so you do add jQuery, right? And it's just going to be the script tag that everyone uses, which is funny that like it um, even has the integrity hash, which we will see if that's that's right. The only kind of like Astro specific thing, which is again kind of like introduced to you as a hint, and it's like pretty easy to kind of like to understand, is there like, hey, we treat scripts a bit special in Astro compared to just HTML. So if you want to use them as just HTML, just add this like is inline, right? So is inline, and you're done, right? So now you can do script, and you can do uh, jQuery document. jQuery is right here. Okay, that sounds fancy. Now let's go back to the localhost version, which we did stop. Okay, so I forgot what the command does. Run dev. Yeah, okay. So now we're here, and jQuery is ready, right? So it's funny that like it's complaining that like, hey, this is actually TypeScript. So this is going to kind of like check what you're going to do here, and it's like, hey, do you want to try to add types jQuery? I think, yeah. So far, the ease inline and all that stuff that will actually work. There is at the end of the body or head if you want to comment hooks. Okay. Well, the thing is that like I always didn't understand why do you need to do ready, because like that's blocking script, right? Like until this runs, you don't have jQuery, so it's all a bit confusing. So so here actually I'm going to highlight the code and I'm going to say uh, editing instructions. Yes, I'm going to say um, instead of downloading jQuery from CDN, uh, use one from npm. Okay, let's see how much of like astronology it knows. Okay, that's close. Okay, accept. Now I'm going to say, okay, yeah, I didn't. Well, it's not wrong. It's not wrong, but it says that like jQuery is not installed. So we're going to bun add jQuery, and we also need types slash jQuery. Fortunately, the AI wasn't able to do us to help us there. Okay. Interesting that the editor didn't pick it up. Did the yeah? So the server picked it up. So the idea is that like we had the kind of like the JSON or sorry the CDN version, right? But now we have we have this like modern kind of like version, right? So like I can use jQuery from npm instead of installing it from CDN, and this gives me things like, well, actually this is like jQuery, right? So like uh, this is bad illustration right now because like the types didn't pick up. But usually like the usually the benefit of this is that like when when you're writing your scripts, you can refer to kind of like the modules. So like if I'm using like Lodash and there's like a merge function, right? I can't accidentally write merged instead of merge. Like TypeScript will yell at me and say like, hey, this exists, this doesn't exist. So this is like a again, as you saw, like the old method works. This is a bit of a step up, and I think this step up is actually kind of like pretty good. Okay, chat is having fun. Okay, so the part that I don't like is that the types didn't pick up. It does like autocomplete for jQuery, but it doesn't understand. Yeah, did I install types wrong, or like I think I did everything correctly. Huh. It's slightly confusing. Well, we will try like another thing. But on the kind of like the which TypeScript are we using? Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like I don't think we installed TypeScript like explicitly, right? Yeah, it's 5.5. Astro spotted. Yes. So so now that we have this, we can go all the way in, right? We can actually use kind of like modules as well. Again, all this stuff is like import maps and all that stuff. It all works in Astro. You can do that, but the difference between that and like doing it the right way is not that big in terms of like how you write it, but it's actually going to be kind of like better in terms of performance, right? Like because you're bundling everything and it's like it's bundling exactly the thing that you need, right? Like you don't need to You need to care about like, oh, actually, I'm not using this on this page, so like I need to remove it. It's like it will do that all for you. So the next step that I would go from here, right, is I would go to sources, I would create scripts, and I would create index.js or something like that, or TS, right? So I can take this code now from the script tag. I can put it here. Like to access network rolling. Why do you? What is going on? Okay. So I can do it like this. Oh, it's actually funny that like it's deprecated, right? Um, and now I can do kind of like exactly the same thing as we were doing, like in the. Oh, interesting. Except, okay. I don't know that like if the path is correct, but this is close to what I was going for, right? So yeah, so this doesn't work. I think it needs to be as like a relative path, right? So I think you can do source slash something, fail to resolve import from, yeah, or you can do like a relative path. So now the funny part I think here is like if I make a typo, it will actually yell at me, right? And it will yell at me at the compiler level. So this is kind of like again, kind of like a bit of step up from like PHP and vanilla JavaScript. Like once you're doing TypeScript, you can do kind of like checks like that, right? Like, and you don't accidentally like refer to a file that doesn't exist, or like if you rename the file, a TypeScript server or language server will either kind of like rename everything for you, or at least will like yell at you if it forgot to rename it. Yeah. Well, in PHP they have. He was like talking about linters, right? He was like, "Oh, like I will check with the linter if everything works, and then I will like push the directly to production," right? So like they do that. So it's like kind of like TypeScript is like along those like linter lines. So anyway, so we have this thing and it works. It works with jQuery and it works with all of that stuff. So now we need like a killer killer app. Um, like I was thinking about uh, I was thinking about this talk. So I will ask. I will ask. Interesting search behavior. Reiterating your embedding. Yeah, interesting. So I guess I can ask different questions. Oh, and it allows you to use different models. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Um. Okay, I forgot what I was going to say. So if I just press enter, it's chat. But if I press command enter, that's with code base. I wonder if that's what I was missing with some of the questions. So okay, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you know the talk by Dan Abramov? How was it called? Well, I don't remember now. There was one about like two computers, but there was Dan Abramov at React Conf 2024. Okay. I wonder what it's going to say. Because some of them like do have internet access, right? But like that would be like probably GPT or even like not API GPT, but like Chat GPT. Okay, so did it tell me anything? I apologize, but I don't have information. As AI may language model. Okay. As AI language model. That's what you all guys are saying. React for two computers. Was I React for two computers? And like I'm almost. Do you know the talk called React for two computers? Okay, and I'm trying to ask like different like model. I wonder if that's going to do anything. I don't have information about. Okay, well. Okay. So the example that he gives there is he like starts with again like a very vanilla like application with just the tick function, right? It's just like a tick string. It's like everything is there, and we have like on click function, right? So like this is the on click function that we're going to write. um, so we're going to write it with jQuery first, just to keep our senses calm. I wonder what formatting doesn't work. That's like slightly. I think it wasn't font. It was like format or something. Yeah, why is it so slow? Okay. Okay. I wonder why my like format unsave doesn't work. That's what I was going to say. Okay, so the thing that he has, right? He has a thing that gets cat names, and then it picks a random cat name, and it shows the button. So here's the code for the button. So it's just okay. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say like uh, button centered on the screen with the text reveal. Okay, so there's quick question and generate. And here, if I press enter, it's generate, but there should be command enter. Okay, that's slightly confusing, but hey, and you can use style text. It's perfect. It knows what you're doing. Okay, so we are accepting, saving, going here, and we have a button that says reveal. Okay, so this is perfect. So now, okay, I actually want to start a new chat. So I want to say, like take this, right? It doesn't know that talk, so we have to okay, um, make the button that I have on the home page, run this code. Okay, let's start here, and let's see if it will figure out where kind of like everything lives. Okay, so it knows that to go to the script tag. Okay, so now that we have that file, we can click on it, and now we can apply those changes. Okay, so it knows the function and all that stuff. So now if I save, now I click. Okay, it's close enough, right? We don't have that API code yet. So I'm going to follow up on, and yeah, I can use the Cloud Sonnet again. Yeah, it's interesting that like the separation of concerns, right? So our center button was a tag that like it added to style did thing, but now our functionality is assigned to that thing. So I was wondering if it will tell me like add a new class, right? Because like that's silly that like yeah. Anyway, it's silly that the functionality is assigned to the style. Okay, so okay, so we go here. I like this, like the image input. It's definitely like a cool detail compared to Copilot. So I need to find the cat names. Okay, so um, okay, so now the question is like, how well does it know Astro? So make API cat names return these names, right? And again, how deep does it actually know? I know that like it doesn't stuck to the bottom all the time. Okay, so to make endpoint return those names, create a file Again, I have to create it manually, or .js if you prefer. Okay, so I'm creating a new file. Okay, not the current project. Okay. Creating a new file. What is going on? Okay, probably easier to do it here. Cursor. Okay, so I'm creating a new file, and now I'm inserting this code into it. Okay, what is going on? Oh, create. Okay. Okay, I thought they created it, but let's try again. Okay, generating. It's interesting that like when you see the code snippets, it doesn't always just like apply it right away. There is like a step that checks again if you can do it. So which sounds really fancy. Yeah, so those elements aren't used. That's fine. This thing is not used. Okay, so now we have JSON stringify cat names. It's actually good. I think that's all that you need. So now that I click reveal, I'm showing the cat name. Okay. I don't know how they've been sued yet for copying. What do you mean copying? Who's copying what? What happened? Okay, so JSON should work correctly fetching. Okay, so it kind of like understand what's going on like in the whole project, and like this input with screenshots is very good. Like I'm enjoying this. So yeah, so we had Electra 3 times in a row. That's how random numbers work. Okay. So yeah, so this is probably like the good place to like format everything and commit again. uh, The only thing that like doesn't look good is that it like the text is not centered after it's done. So we'll fix that. We also don't need jQuery is ready anymore. That feels a bit much. Okay, where's the thing? Okay, so here. Format and say doesn't work for some reason, which is like slightly annoying. Okay, so add a reveal cat bottom. Okay. So here's where I want to take it from here. So in I wonder if he shows his file with the like the CSS. That would be that would have been helpful. Okay, so here JSON await response. Yeah, so it's style.css. I wonder if they have like a if it's on GitHub somewhere. Repos. I think he has more repos than me. Okay. So we. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he named it, and I don't know how they sorted. So last updated. Well, that sounds fine. Or React Native website. Yeah. That's React Dev. Simple RC. No, that's different. Okay, maybe he didn't publish it. Okay. So so the whole thing about this talk is like moving code around, right? Is trying to get rid of the he's trying to get rid of the uh, JSON of JSON API call, right? I don't know why my intro is so slow today. Yeah, finish here. Blah blah blah. Use client. Reveal names. Yeah, which reads the data. Right. So like on the left and on the right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I'm bringing this. Yeah, so that I can preserve the types. Okay, so yeah. Okay. Yes. So this is the part where kind of like I'm expecting like Lex and Levels not to freak out, right? It's like, well, that's how we're doing it, right? Maybe we're calling jQuery.ajax instead of fetch, but otherwise that's how we're doing it. So let's start cleaning it up, right? So first is that so this thing is deprecated, right? And it's like, okay, so why is it deprecated? What's going on? Well, they're like, use the fancier syntax, and it's like, okay, let's use the fancier syntax. Let's try again. By the way, how was our app? Yeah, it's all working, right? You want to like push it all the time so that you can see that it like it still works, so that you can show it later to all of your customers or whatever. So yeah, so we fixed the like the jQuery warning, right? But like the idea is the same. The fun part is that you don't actually do that. Like, you don't need that. It will work perfectly fine without this whole jQuery wrapper. I don't know why people do this. I don't know. It's a mystery to me. Um, yeah, interesting. That like it puts it in a body. Yeah. Okay. So now this is now the question is like, why do we need jQuery here, right? And that's the thing, right? In when they were talking about all of this stuff in the podcast, right? They're like, oh, you just use vanilla JavaScript, you just use vanilla PHP, right? But like they're talking about jQuery for some reason. um, yeah, don't know why that. Yeah, Prettier like died for some reason. I wonder if you're like, yeah, we have type module. Oh, let's Prettier. Yeah, it's JSON. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to fix Prettier. That's feels like the this feels like the thing that shouldn't work or should not be there. Okay, let's make a quick detour about Prettier. I think if we would just use like a different config file, maybe it would be better. I don't know if we even need Prettier config. We need it for Astra, I guess, right? So if my thing is called prettier.common.js, do they do MJS? Okay, they do MJS. Why is it not working then? Okay, so let's try this. Right, so like let's do just JS. Let's do this. Now cut all of this out, insert it here, and press save. And preacher still dying. Well, that's unfortunate. Do MJS. Still dying. Yes, it does. Okay. Well, I don't know if that's just cursor or VS Code or whatnot. Let me just go back to JSON. And let's just be upset that preacher doesn't work. Okay. So now that we have all of this stuff, right? So like we don't need any of the jQuery things. Howdy, I'm seeing some like new people in chat. So the um, the whole story here is that we are trying out this AI powered editor, which is supposedly allows you to write anything anywhere, and we are checking if that's true. And the project that I'm working on is basically kind of like a tutorial for like, hey, you've been coding in PHP for 20 years, you haven't heard about it in your frameworks yet. And it's like, how do you do JavaScript, kind of like, or like websites in general, kind of like today, right? And we are starting with Astro, and for the comfort, I started with jQuery, but I'm trying to make an argument. It's like, why do you need it, right? So here, the only place that we're using jQuery is this selector, which I hope everyone knows. You can just do document query selector, right? And add event listener. So we remove that, remove this. Where's our terminal? We go to our application, we refresh, and it still works, right? So it seemed like the jQuery detour was kind of like not worth it. Astro Server Islands. I actually played with Astro Server Islands already. It's a good thing. It's not part of the tutorial that we're doing here, but I will figure out how to make a video about it. Yeah. So now is the time for us to get rid of jQuery. Is like the only thing kind of like why you would still do jQuery is plugins, right? So like if you already have some code that kind of like works, you're like, well, should right? Like on this page that does like something fancy, maybe I will just use jQuery and I will keep my kind of like existing code or like existing plugins and whatnot. But for like a general app that you're working right now, like you probably don't need it, right? So this is going to be kind of like goodbye jQuery, right? Good. Oh, I actually wanted to check this. So if I go to git control, right? I want to like commit git commit, right? Okay. So now get read. Oh, okay. So like uh, the AI works here, right? We can write commit message using AI, which is cool. So if I close it, will it commit? Yes. Okay, it did. Okay, very cool. So now we kind of like made our website faster. We don't have to send jQuery anymore. We are just going back to like the raw, very like natural way of doing things. But there is that kind of like separation of concern kind of like question, right? It's like, why are we using this center button, which is like style consideration, as a thing to select what to click on, right? So actually, we wanna turn this thing into think they were saying that there's like a way to highlight. Don't know how to do it now. It was Command L something. Command Shift L, Command Option L. Yeah, I don't see anything. Okay, so make this a web component named my named reveal button, and put the button tag inside of it. Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay, there are more styles, I guess. No, it looks the same. Okay, so it did the con. Yeah, this is not exactly what I was going for. Yeah. So maybe I can show what it does. Actually, don't wanna. Well, okay. Let's try it out, and I will use this as an example, right? So you hear a lot of people talking about like web components, and web components are great, and they're going to solve everything, and like we will never have to worry about anything, right? The problem with web components is that now if I disable JavaScript, this button actually doesn't show anything, right? And the web component proponents will say, that's fine. And I would say it's not the year 2014. That's not how the web works, right? So I actually want this thing. I actually want this button to be inside of how to say it inside of this tag, right? And I don't want to mess up with it. So what do I do? Okay, so must call superconstructor. Okay, find is calling superconstructor, right? So this is like a more modern kind of like take on the vanilla JavaScript and the whole kind of like jQuery replacement, right? So what we want to do here is we want this in a sense to be like a fancy selector, right? This is a thing that like doesn't change how kind of like everything works. It more like a thing that changes. How do I say it? Like in the olden days, we would just do this, right? So like we would just add a class of the thing, right? But there was a problem of like using classes kind of like for two purposes, for like visual kind of like CSS stuff, and for functional kind of like modal trigger and all that stuff, right? And the web components, I just like recently rewatched the 2014 like talk where Alex like presents all of this stuff. And like he talked about classes a lot, and like that's when they were like talking about micro formats and like JSON-LD and all that stuff about like semantic web. And it's like to make it more semantic, you know, like pull it apart, right? And this is our reveal button that like does something, right? And this is our class that like centers something, right? So which feels like a pretty good idea. So here I want to say move this section into index.ts file. I wonder if that's going to work. Okay, yeah, so it's going to remove it. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to move it myself. Prettier doesn't work yet. It's very upsetting. So now that we moved it here, right? So the funny thing that we can do is that once you're inside of the reveal button, we don't need constructor. We need connected callback. Yes. And the idea here is that we want to do like the on click. So we don't do this anymore, right? So like this line was replaced by this. And we don't need this question mark. Like it's not a question of like, is it on the page or is it not on the page? It's like the web component kind of like smart enough that like when the web component is there, it will do this. I will talk about like a difference here a bit, right? And it's like it all works, right? Like clicking this and it's like all works. The only thing that I do kind of like differently a bit is that uh, it actually works. But I usually do kind of like this. So query selector button, right? So I go and like find that button inside of a component, right? So like, which is uh, it becomes like a bit of an API now, right? So like if this is not a button, if this is a now, it's not going to work. So there's kind of like pros and cons to doing it this way or that way. But like I would say that without kind of like changing any functionality, right? I would say that this way is more modern. It's basically the same, right? I could have just did the jQuery whatever the like reveal button, right, on click. Like I could have done this, right, and it would have worked the same, but the more kind of like modern way is would be like this, right? So like you're you're moving the functionality kind of like separate from the classes and from the selectors, right? You're saying like, well, once this thing is mounted, that's when I do it. And this allows you to do stuff like the thing that I have is jQuery right now, right? Like this, you need to do like jQuery live, right? You need to follow if the new element with this thing showed up, then add the click handler, right? But like if it removed, remove it, right? And like all of this is already done for you with web components. Yeah, for Tailwind exactly, right? So like if you're using Tailwind, you won't have the like the the good class to piggyback on, right? So if you know kind of like PHP and jQuery, if you just starting doing this, I would already say, hey, this is like modern JavaScript. This is fine. Like leave it at this. You're good. You did kind of like everything correctly, right? So we're just like naming the things. There is like a problem that in web components you can't like inherit buttons, I think. So like in an ideal world, you would just like not put your button inside of a component. You would just say like my button, right? But there are like reasons why it doesn't work, and it's tricky. Like if JavaScript didn't pull in it, like it wouldn't know that it's a button. So like that's the best way that kind of like I know of. And again, as you can see that like we can just like put all of this stuff inside of a script tag here, or we can like put it inside of ds file. It's basically the same. It, like the output is going to be the same, right? So you can feel yourself writing as much of kind of like JavaScript or HTML as you want. So I would say move to custom components. Yeah. So where do we go from here? So here I would say it's all kind of like well and good. But the bigger the application that goes from this point is like the harder it is to follow all the implicit dependencies, right? It's like, as I was saying, like this thing has to be a button, right? Like if it doesn't find a button inside of this component, like it wouldn't know how to react on it and all that stuff. So like that's why you have the question mark again, right? It's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like, what do you do if it's not there? And for and how do I say it? We can start here, right? So I can say that let's say that we have a section here, and let's say that this section is going to have a class center. It's like very aggressive, like the autocomplete. So this button is just going to be button. This section is going to be center button, and I'm going to say that rename center button to center. Do you have a hotkey to apply those changes? Okay, so if I was here and press Y, okay, it's a follow-up now. Okay, like press apply. I think there are like too many like clicks with mouse that you need to do. Okay, so now I have a real Electra. Okay, so we do this, right? And now now the change that I would do is that on click. I can move it now as a private class of this, a private method or public method or whatever. So it's going to be like on click. I guess async. Yeah, async on click, and this is going to be. Oh, okay. Actually, I'm like here, but like it proposes me to change it to do changes here. That's funny. So now that we're doing all of this stuff, right? So it's a bit more contained and all that stuff, but like the more important part I wanted to do here is that I can do this now, right? So like this should be referring to the button, right? Um, which is not exactly this that I meant here. So let me think about it. So it's a function. Yeah, so if that's going to be like a const, I think then this is going to be the right one. Okay, so let's try again. Yes. So now I'm replacing the text that is like scoped to the can we extend button on it. Yeah, I was talking like briefly about it. The answer is kind of they basically kind of like there are like some bugs to it, and accessibility wise, and like it doesn't always know that it's a button. I think so. I usually don't do that. So yeah, so now we can have like this that refers to the component, right? So like now I don't have to I don't have to have that explicit like the reference that I had was like document, right? So like or I would have had like another selector, right? So like this the reference to a thing that kind of like exists globally. Now all of these things kind of like work locally, and the benefit of that is that I can have two of them, right? So now I can reveal one or reveal another, right? Now I have this kind of like more component oriented, more like thing where with jQuery it's a bit harder to kind of like to follow on that, right? It's like it's not impossible, it's just like not it's not how it works by default, right? So like that's the kind of like that's the level why you want to do kind of like why you don't want to use jQuery. That's the level of like where the web is right now, right? Like it's in here. It's like it's a button that does something, and you can have two of those. It doesn't have to be very global, right? So like that's the difference between like what is it, right? So like the difference between this is like I can't have two of those buttons. Like it will destroy like the other button like before I can click on it, but I can have two of those buttons now. Yeah, so this is where again this is where I would say, hey, you know, modern kind of like JavaScript now. You can talk with the boys, and I would say the like the Astro is helping you here. That like it's it was very easy to set up TypeScript, right? Like we didn't have to do anything. We just selected yes type to TypeScript, and name the file with .ts, right? So like it's going to look very easy. I think it's like not intrusive and all that stuff. And the web component is again, I think it kind of like it's pretty clear kind of like what's going on there. And where do we go from here, right? So first, let's maybe yeah, oops. Yeah. So now, where do we go from here? The thing that is like hard to do in like web component land is yeah, it's probably this, right? So if I have those cat names, right? So far it all kind of like looks good, but like, what if I want to pass them as a sort of prop, right? Like, what if I want one button to have like a secret cat name, but the other one doesn't, right? So I want to do something along the lines of like cats equals what was it? Cat names. Okay. So I want to do cat names, right? And this one is going to be like secret and cat names, right? So this is where the fun with Astra begins. This is where you can like get that fetch and move it up here. So you can say cat names uh, and oops, what's going on? Okay. So I want to go to the file where we do cat names API, and I want to say, yeah, so open chat. And I'm going to say, move this to move the list of cats to the utility file and get that data and access that data in the index.astro file as an import. Okay. Okay, I don't know if I pressed the right button again, but let's hope that I did. Okay, so blah blah blah. Now the cat name file. Okay. Yeah, it's very confusing. Okay, so let's apply this. Okay, and now it goes to the right file. Okay, that's funky. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, so if we have, yeah, current file, we'll use. Now let's update the cat names. Okay, this change is also good, right? So like now let's update this and move the file separate utility file. Okay. Um, how should I name that file? Okay, so it apply the current, yeah. So it like doesn't know how to create it. Okay, so we go to source, we create utils, and we create cat data.ts. Okay, and now we can put yeah, now we can put this into that file. Yep. Okay. Okay, and for the purposes of okay, like this experiment, right? So like this could have been an async function, right? So like it it could have been reading from a file system, it could have been reading from a database. It's like like doesn't matter, but like it's not cat names, it's like get cat names, right? So now uh now here I can do await get cat names and can import that file. Okay, it's complaining about something. Argument string is not assignable to body int. Right, because it's yeah, JSON stringify. Oh, that's a good file. Yeah, Copilot doesn't know how to insert from both ends. This is cool. Okay, so this is one is good. And I'll do the same thing for the cat names here. Right. Oops. Okay. Doesn't know what I'm trying to say. Okay. So now it does cat names, and we can do const cat names await, right? So now for each button, if you look at it, it actually has like all the cat names, right? And there is like a secret one on this one. So now the question is like, how do you use this, right? So like I'm passing this prop, which presumably a prop, right? I'm passing it, but like how do I use it on that end? Like here, I was just fetching, but I don't have to fetch anymore, so it's no longer a sync, and the cat names are coming to us from uh yeah interesting. Okay. um so it's a string, so we want to do like JSON parse. Yeah, it's not really easy to see like all the autocompletes, but like let's try. So we do this, and it's probably like can't parse it for some reason. Yeah, it's not a valid JSON, which is a shame. Uh, which we could just like JSON stringify it here. I will just do this thing, I guess. So I will do, in case it's empty, yeah. So we'll do this. Yeah, so cat name is string or undefined, and I guess this works. Okay, so if I click on the second one enough times, I should see secret. Okay, it's going to take a while. Yes, okay, secret, right? So this felt fine, but the kind of like this tricky part about kind of like how do you communicate with the server and the client, right? That's tricky. And uh the other kind of like more concerning thing is that let's say that our functionality is going to be this. Uh, the the thing is going to, yeah. So how do I do this? So when button happens, button const button equals this. Okay, this is good so far. I can also do if button, then do this. Okay, this is good. I'm finally writing some code so I can fill the editor, and it like I like that autocomplete. So so now that we do all of this stuff, I actually want to do button inner text is reveal da da da, right? So you see that when I refresh it, it's like this is a client side only code, right? Uh, and what I want to do here is like reveal one of the yeah, something like this. Uh, yeah, so it's get attribute dot split. Yeah, I don't see where it's, yeah, it's hard to see like the inline of the completes, right? So like I want to show reveal one of the like n names, right? So now the problem is that this functionality is happening here, and I can't access it here, right? So like this is the issue that I kind of like see with web components. They're really good with this stuff that is invisible, right? So they're really good with this stuff that like looks exactly the same on the server or on the client, or it like doesn't have anything on the server and it's only available on the client, right? Like once you're waiting for some API to return and all that stuff. But for this kind of like more tightly integrated stuff, that's kind of like where it all falls apart. And that's where I like to say, please give up and use a framework, right? And that's going to become like our last exercise on this. And we're going to say, I want to add solid JS, right? And so far it was like pretty successful with it. Okay, so it says client load, cats, all of that stuff. Okay. Now create solid component. Okay. And here's a brief explanation. npm install. Okay. So it's missing Astra specific. Oh yeah. Oh, interesting. Then update it into. Oh no, it doesn't miss it. But the right way. Well, maybe not the right way, but like the way to do this usually is you do astro add solid, and it will do this stuff for you, right? So like it will install those dependencies and it will update your config. And this is the important part. They didn't mention it in the chat, but like it wouldn't, like the TypeScript kind of like stuff wouldn't work without it. So here's that. So now let's go kind of like try to follow the instructions, right? So it says, yeah, so you had all of this stuff, right? Like you had, did I commit it, by the way? Don't remember if I did. Okay, make 2 of them. Yeah, so I did the change where I did the cats as an array, right? But yeah, so this and this is all the Astra stuff. No, the cat. Yeah. Okay, so pass props to web component. Right. So 2 issues that we had is we were not sure about the types, right? So like if I said cat instead of cats, like it wouldn't know. It just like it would have to fall in runtime. And the problem with the web components are only running on the client, so you would have like more kind of like mismatches between client and server, and that's why we're going to the kind of like solid route. So we're not changing much, right? So we, instead of reveal dash button, it's just reveal button now. And to kind of like switch on this SSR format where we render it on the server and render it on the client, we do client load. So we do this. Now we go to reveal button.tsx. And in that reveal button.tsx, we are doing all of this stuff. It's too much clicking. I wish there were more like keyboard shortcuts. So that's our state. When it's clicked, handle revealed is true, and when revealed is true, okay, it doesn't know solid, but that's unfortunate. Okay, and now what else is missing? I think that's good enough. Let's try it out. Okay, so the styles are a bit different. Why are styles? Okay, it wrapped it as a div. We don't need that. There are fragments in solid, so we can use this. Fragment is invisible div. Is that fair to say? Like it wouldn't create like a wrapper. It will just put this stuff out. So now we click on it. It actually works, which is slightly surprising. Why does it work? It shouldn't work. But this is not the logic that we had. So we're going to, okay, shift. Okay, so if I have a chat, then I can add it to chat. Yeah, I'm pressing, nothing happens. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so the functionality of reveal button should be the same as in index.ts script that we already have. Okay, running all this stuff. Let's see if it understands what's going on. And it says math random, that's good. And is reveal one of the cat names, that's all good. And if the revealed cat is there, then show it. Okay, so this is much closer to what I wanted to do. And children any is of course like not a good not a good look. And this function could be undefined. Okay, so that's a good change. Now let's see, reveal one of the 5 cats, right? And now if I refresh, I'm getting the same content. I don't have to do client-side only stuff, and I don't have to do more server-only stuff. Now reveal one of the cats, reveal the other cat. Okay. The problem is that it shouldn't be showing the button, right? Like it still didn't understand the thing. So let's start here. Let's say use proper solid child type. There is actually like a secret. There is like a more proper way. Okay, so if I accept and if I import this one, that should work. Okay, well, yeah, okay. It's not good. It doesn't understand solid. And we don't need child. That's the more fun part. So so to show the original functionality, we actually want to do fragment. It's going to be show when revealed cat. It's going to show revealed cat and show when not revealed cat. All of this stuff. Okay. Yeah, formatter is still not working, and we want to import show from solid. Okay, so now we'll do this. Okay, it still shows it as a button. Like, what is going on? Why is it still a button? Okay, so this is an island. This is an island. That's fine. Why is it showing this cursor? Why is it? What is going on? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe let's do span or something here. Still showing me the cursor. I don't know what that means. Okay, so this one is section, class center. Sections don't have cursors, right? What's going on? I position absolute. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the part, right? Like you're created a thing with class center, and it's not tailwind. It's adding class pointer to for some reason. Yeah, this is hard. Okay. Yeah, okay. I don't need the span now. Okay, interesting that like it works with the editing of like link tags. It's always like breaks for me in the. Okay, still cursor pointer. Yeah, okay. I guess I like to move it. Okay. So this is my tutorial. This is how I would say you kind of like start from the basics and you get all the way to the framework components, and hopefully you kind of like understand why, right? Hopefully like the problems that were happening kind of like easy to understand, like, oh yes, this is why we do this is why we have to do it this way, right? And now if I do cat 2 instead of cats, I'm going to be yelled at and all that stuff. So it's like it wasn't impossible before, right? We did it with jQuery, we did it with fetching and all of that, and on clicks and all that stuff. But this is like a bit more structured, right? And do I like all of this show stuff? Not really, right? And I think we don't need this one. I think this one is like should work fine if you just do this. right? But like the button, we want to hide the button if it's not available. So that's my tutorial to the web. It's you start with HTML, you go with HTML as long as possible. When you need some interactivity, you can add it in kind of like any way possible that you feel like fits. I feel like the way that fits more is web components that you just declare yourself, kind of like this, right? You're like, hey, I have some functionality. I have like a selector that I want to have do something. And then once your selector becomes a bit unwieldy, right? Like once you're starting to think, oh, actually, this thing needs to talk to a dust thing, and like I need to get information from that, and like once it starts to kind of like to be complicated, and once it starts to be like the thing that like most complicated about kind of like a vanilla JavaScript is like coordinating the server with client, right? So like, and we started with like reveal one of the like end cats, right? It's not impossible to just copy paste that code and like do it there, right? But like once it starts to depend on the clients, well, I guess like if it depends on the client side, it's going to be hard anyway. But like once this logic kind of like becomes like fancier and fancier, it's going to be harder to keep them up in sync. And it's like you're starting to write two applications at some point. And it's with Astra, it's not as stupid, right? Like you have JavaScript on both ends, so you can run like you can turn this into a function and just run it on the server and run it on the client. But at some point, you're just like, oh, I think I just reinvented everything that like needed to be reinvented here, right? It's like I think I'm doing the thing that like um okay, sorry, I got away. So at some point you're just like, oh, I want to actually react when the prop changes, right? Like if it has a new value, I want to change this number, right? On the runtime. It's like someone because like it's not going to work here, but like when it was a web component, right? You can go and like change an attribute, right? Like and like does that update? Does that number update? Like do you want to support all of that stuff? Well, now you need reactivity and all that stuff, and that's where if you really want to keep the like the web components uh, interface, right? The API, you can go to solid element, which is I didn't do it because I think it's a bit of like it's a bit of like a detour. I think it's easier to go right pass through it. But like if you still want to if you still like the web components kind of like API, you can do this thing, right? Like where you use solid to render, but the API is still the web component, but you have all the issues about like types and all that stuff. So I don't think it's kind of like worth it. Um, but like at some point, this thing will turn into solid element, and like once it's there, like hey, why were you doing this detour, right? Like this was so easy. It was so easy to do reveal dash button into reveal button component, right? And it's like, just do it. Just add client load and be happy. So that's kind of like how I would sell all of this. And so now we can commit this in, and we can say uh, this and this and this. So rain plant component in solid, kind of like solid element mentioned. So now we don't need the CPI anymore. Now we don't need this script anymore, right? So now we have in the spirit of React of React things, right? So now, so this is our after part, right? That's where we can like read files, wait async, and all that stuff. And this is our kind of like client side, right? They're splitting it up a bit differently. They don't do the math random, which is easy to move around. But um, I just care about the read file part, right? Like that's the part that server only. So you do the server only thing here, and then sorry. Yeah, so you do the server only stuff in the Astro file. You do the kind of the SSR, so it's just like server and client here, right? And if you got stuck, you just do client only equals solid, and this component now is client only, right? Like if you were didn't remove something. Where's our SRC thing? Yeah, this one, right? So if you have a reading local storage or whatever, and you really don't want to figure out the SSR part, you can always do client only and go kind of back to the thing that you had with web components, all that stuff, right? But you already paid for the solid when you already paid for solid when you installed it, right? So those few extra kilobytes are already accounted for. So yeah. Okay, so this. So this is going to be cleanup. And we're going to push it. And that's going to be it. We're going to wait for Vercel to Vercel to deploy it. And once it's done, that's going to we can run Lighthouse or something like that for fun. And yeah, I think it's done. It's all kind of in seconds. Of course, it's not the same amount of seconds as you do just deploying directly to production through SFTP or something, but it's close enough, right? And you can do pull requests or preview environments and all that stuff, which is a bit harder to set up with VPS. Yeah, just keeping on the Lex node. So yeah, so this is our 16 kilobytes, right? Before gzip, which is where is it? Yes, which is 6 kilobytes over the wire, right? Our button is 400 kilobytes, and our I don't remember what load the client is. I think it's just a part of solid, but I don't know why it's different. It's separate, right? And yeah, and 5 kilobytes of solid, and it's well, jQuery is 40 kilobytes, right? It's but we actually made a better app, right? And it's not that more complicated, but much more capable. And once you get already done with all of this stuff, you can go into fancier stuff. And it's oh, I can actually pull in something from React Query, right, or Solid Query in this case, or I can do, I don't know, suspense boundaries and sending promises and all of that stuff. And it's yeah, you can do all of that stuff once you can have the need for it, or use server islands. They're pretty good. Okay, I think that's it. I think the only thing that is left to do is we're going to oh no, where did it go? Where's our cursor? So the only thing that is left is we're going to open our chat one last time. We're going to say, what do you think about this project? Do you think it's a good example of how to build a modern web app, right? And Okay, it's only showing us the current file. I don't know where it's when it's reading everything and when it's reading not everything. So let me try again. So like I'm opening this and we'll use current file. But how do I do? Okay, yeah, I forgot the command enter, right? These projects appear to be simple yet well-structured example of modern applications, modern framework, TypeScript, component-based architecture, API routes. We didn't use like anything fancy for CSS because in some sense it doesn't matter. But yeah, development environment, state management, reacting, blah blah blah. Overall, solid foundation. Okay, thank you. We got a bit of approval from the bots, and now I'm glad to hear that. Uh, can you update the README with the description of what is inside of this project, right? So we primed it up to think about modern applications and all that stuff. So hopefully now now the README is going to be like is going to be fancy and it's like yes, everything's cool. And create community, blah blah blah. Okay. Well, the bad part is that I don't know how to apply it. Okay, so let's try saying please apply those changes to the README. Okay, and command enter. Okay. Okay, I think it doesn't know how to do it. My God, how would I okay uh uh save this README as base64 encoded string in the format const x equals okay, let's see. Yeah, it's just there, but like how do I pull it out of it? Let's see how good it is at base 64. Yeah, there's a sad copy message. Yeah, because it's going to be line by line. Yeah, it doesn't know how to properly escape it. Yeah, well, that went like as much. That went as well as it could. Yeah. How do I not? I don't know. I guess maybe I can like explain it to do the like the triple ticks or whatever. Maybe like triple ticks will do it. Okay, so now that I can copy this, yeah, it's too small. Okay. Okay. Okay, something. Cursor. Okay, so now we do this. We do console log A to B. Always fun. Okay, now README. Okay, we got it. We got it at the end. So let's go to README. I think if I have like this file open, maybe it would be better. Still so hard to close this. Okay, so yeah, we don't need any of this this stuff. Okay, so modern application. Yeah, it has like this symbols. Okay, I wonder if we can just do this. please clean up this file and improve formatting. Okay. And it's scope to this file. Okay, it doesn't, yeah. Oh, did you do it? No, I did. Only, okay, let's try this. Okay, I think I tried to do it. Learn more. You play through check Astra docs, advanced topics to explore. Okay, so let's accept. Blah blah blah. Best practices, project structure, key features. Okay, interesting that it like created scripts even though that's an empty folder. And this, I think this is also okay. Yeah, I think the project structure kind of like doesn't make sense. Password solid TypeScript component based API blah blah blah. Command. Okay, so I will save it. I will add it to Git, but I will tell our thing that explain how to install bun and change npm instructions to bun. Okay, so I want to say it is a different experience compared to Copilot. Of course, of course, of course, it's clear that they're going to do the same thing, right? Like yeah, it's interesting that like I pressed accept the README and it changed this part. So it's definitely like going from this to like to applying changes is not like one-to-one process. So it makes it harder to kind of like to follow what is going on. Oh yeah, that was definitely a miss. Yeah, so do this. I would say, yeah. So still using the like the inline editing, right? So like if I want to add instructions how to install bound, it's easier to do something like uh, uh, yeah. So install bond, install VS Code. I didn't care about VS Code, but clone repo, unbound install, unbound def. Okay. Repeating with this one. Yeah, so doesn't know the repo name, I guess. So we can go. It turns out that people only know how to copy as HTTPS and don't know SSH. That was like a huge discovery to me. Git clone this. Okay. Now let's try again. I think that like the markdown is like it's Achilles heel because it's already working on the markdown. So that's like too much for it. So write instructions as heading instead of a list. Okay. Let's see if it does it. Okay, better. Okay, you don't understand where to put it. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. So no. Okay. So if I just copy this, and this, and if I just insert this. Okay. Stillborn, clone the repo. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Yeah, so it didn't follow the instructions. Okay, so clone the repo. Oops. All dependencies. Yeah, so don't do the run thing. Do the okay. That. Okay. And okay. Yeah, so it's definitely like the UI is tricky, but like it's definitely I think once you get kind of like into the groove, I think it's going to be like way faster to do it. Compared to compared to Compilot. Okay, so install Bond, clone the repo, install dependencies, start developer server. You will also want to do okay. This this repo was written by Cloud. How's it called? Cloud. Cloud. 3.5 Sonnet and JLRK. Uh, Cursor editor, JLRK, see more here, and we can put the video, which okay, I don't have it, but you get the point. I think we're done. We did 3 big things in 3 big hours. We reacted to the Lex video. We what was the second one? Okay, I already forgot. We did a lot of crazy stuff, and oh yeah, we installed the editor, kind of like looked around and like right, and built more or less like a real project. I was hoping that it will be kind of like helping better, right? There were a few changes that I just felt like, oh, it's going to be easier to write it myself than like try to explain it in English. I think there's also like a voice input, which I kind of like didn't find. It didn't get to my radar. But presumably voice input is also like very fancy. I did play with voice input in GitHub Copilot. It's not cool to like to explain everything that you want to do, and it's like it's not as intuitive as like working with like a coworker, right, where you're like, hey, change this, do that, because like the success rate is much worse, and the editor experience is kind of like different. So um I wonder if we're ever going to get to a state where you can just like pair with it, and you can say it's like, hey, write this, and it writes it slower than it could, but just like you have more time to catch it and say, oh no, stop, like go back, right? That would be cool. Not there yet. Like AI still doesn't understand stuff. It's still really easy to get it confused. We showed on the like tic-tac-toe, right? And like I just changed like one character and like the whole thing disappeared. So we're not getting replaced yet. Definitely kind of like the like the better latency is good. I don't understand all the editing stuff, because like for me it felt like it would randomly kind of like change something under me, um, or like try to edit like a different section than I meant. So there's definitely like a lot of work that they need to be doing still, but yeah, it was fun. And thank you everyone who joined. Today we had like a pretty like sizable chat. Yeah, thanks everyone who was chatting. And yeah, hopefully going to be streaming soon. I know that I'm saying I'm saying that for a long time now, but at some point I will start doing it. Okay, thanks.